Chapter 2393. In the private room of the branch of the Li family's immortal treasure shop, Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and pondered silently. Soon, he wrote down a row of material names. After a while, the owner of the branch of the immortal treasure shop ran over in person. He was a middle-aged man at the peak of the fairy immortal realm, but his status was definitely higher than that of the manager. He should be an expert of the direct line of descent of the Li family. It turns out that you are a good friend of my nephew. Then I will call you my nephew. My surname is Li and my name is Zhen. You can call me Uncle Li. The middle-aged man who walked in had a ruddy face and a smell of alcohol on his body. He should have run over while drinking. It could be seen that he was still very concerned about Li Pei's matter. As soon as he came in, he took the initiative to get closer to Yi Qinghan. As soon as he spoke, the whole room was filled with the smell of alcohol. Yi Qinghan did not show any disgust. He just shielded the surrounding air, stood up and said, "Then I will climb up the social ladder. Uncle Li, please inform Li Pei to come over and get the high-grade cold mysterious mother. This thing has a very good auxiliary effect for his cultivation. In addition, I came here today to ask you for a favor. Uncle Li, please gather the materials on this piece of paper within 3 months. As for money, it is not a problem." Li Zhen took the piece of paper in Yi Qinghan's hand and looked at Yi Qinghan in surprise. He reminded him, "Nephew, are you preparing the materials for the transformation of the spiritual pet and the reconstruction of the golden body? It is not worth spending so much money for the spiritual pet, is it?" The materials written by Yi Qinghan alone were worth at least hundreds of millions. Many mystic immortals did not have so much money. It was indeed too extravagant to spend so much money for the spiritual pet. However, Li Zhen did not understand the position of the divine bird in Yi Qinghan's heart. Yi Qinghan just smiled indifferently and said, "I don't care about the amount of money, but my spiritual pet must be made of the best materials. I want to raise its combat power to the strongest state." The divine bird had been useless for its entire life. It was time for it to rise up. Yi Qinghan would be happy for it. "All right, these materials are all of the highest quality. I will prepare them for you. However, there are a few materials that are not easy to get. You can try your luck at Jingfan Auction House." Li Zhen quickly drew a few materials on the list and sent them to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan gave it a cursory glance, then handed Li Zhen 30 million as startup capital. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said, "I hope Uncle Li will be more careful in these 3 months." Li Zhen patted his chest and said, "Uncle Li is also a sentimental person. For a spiritual pet, he is willing to spend hundreds of millions. I like him. He is indeed a good friend of Pei's, haha. You can rest assured, in 3 months, I will do my best to gather enough for you." "Thank you, Uncle Li." Yi Qinghan looked at Li Zhen's unkempt face and knew that this person was a sentimental person, so his evaluation of him was much higher. Li Zhen pulled Yi Qinghan and said straightforwardly, "Nephew, you can stay in the courtyard behind the immortal treasure shop. It has been empty for a long time and there are a few rooms. If you stay here, you will be taken care of. Otherwise, when Pei comes, he will blame me for not taking good care of his brother." Yi Qinghan thought about it carefully. The Li family was a wealthy family, after all, and lived in the luxury district. The people from the 9 Kills sect and Endless Peak sect would not come here to kill him. At least they could ensure his safety. "Thank you so much, Uncle Li. I will go back to the inn to prepare. There is also a friend and a Mount Jade beast." Yi Qinghan immediately agreed. Li Zhen was a straightforward person, and he immediately patted his chest and promised, "Uncle will arrange it. You lead the way, I will go with you. I am very familiar with Jingfan City." Li Zhen was very familiar with the place. After finding out which inn Yi Qinghan was staying in, he quickly brought them to the residential area of the Li family's immortal treasure shop. Yi Qinghan and Qi Dongping were arranged to stay in a separate courtyard. There was also a separate garden in the courtyard. Yi Qinghan was worried that the Mount Jade beast would lose control, so he locked it in the back garden. Now, the time for the divine bird to transform was getting closer and closer. It might need the materials at any time. Yi Qinghan let out a breath of turbid air and ordered Little Fox Immortal to guard the room. He brought Qi Dongping and Li Zhen to discuss how to quickly gather the materials. In a private room in the front hall, Li Zhen used the family's communication system to inform the Li family of the Center God province. It was estimated that Li Peiza would arrive at Jingfan City within 10 years. Then, he received Yi Qinghan in the private room. After learning about the divine bird situation, he said, "This situation is not very urgent. It has yet to transform. As long as we can find the form transformation pill, your divine bird will need another year to reconstruct its golden body. Therefore, the most important thing now is to find the supreme-grade form transformation pill. Leave this to me." Yi Qinghan let out a sigh of relief. A year was enough for him to gather the materials. As far as I know, there is a shop in Jingfan Mountain that sells supreme-grade form transformation pills. Very few people use this kind of thing. Not many people are willing to buy form transformation pills worth tens of millions for their spirit pet. Therefore, they will not run out of stock, Li Zhen said lightly. Yi Qinghan nodded and said gratefully, "Thank you, Uncle Li. As for the Jingfan Mountain auction house that you mentioned yesterday, where is it? I would like to try my luck there." The Jingfan Mountain auction house is backed by Jingfan Mountain. Therefore, there are a lot of resources there. Unparalleled treasures often appear and there will be auctions every day. It is located at the foot of Jingfan Mountain. However, those who can enter the Jingfan Mountain auction house are either rich or respectable. If you do not have a few hundred million worth of assets, it is best not to go there, Li Zhen reminded truthfully. Yi Qinghan still had a little over 100 million celestial coins on him. Even if he went there, he would not be able to raise the price of any good item. Looks like I will have to sell a batch of profound Mother Immortal Steel. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. Then, he said to Li Zhen, "Uncle Li, can you help me sell a batch of profound Mother Immortal Steel? There are low-grade to mid-grade ones. Moreover, there are quite a lot of them. I will not sell them at retail. I will just pack them up and sell them." Li Zhen said confidently, "That is not a problem. I have business dealings with many of the sects and aristocratic families in Jingfan main city. Even if each of them were to take a portion, they would be able to finish all the goods in your hands in half a day." Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and said, "I have 3,000 pieces of mid-grade profound Mother Immortal Steel. As for the low-grade ones, I have about a few 100,000 pieces." Li Zhen's pupils shrank. This was worth more than 2 billion celestial coins. Half a day would not be enough to sell it. "Sell them all?" Li Zhen immediately asked. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He shook his head and said, "Half is enough. I want to sell all the low-grade profound Mother Immortal Steel. If Uncle Li can help me sell them, I can take 10% of the profits." 10% of the profits was still a huge amount. It would be at least 100 million celestial coins. "Ha ha, nephew is really a straightforward person. If you sell them as a package, it would definitely be 20% cheaper than the market price. Uncle will take another 10%. According to the market price, 70% of the low-grade profound Mother Immortal Steel. You can give me all the low-grade profound Mother Immortal Steel and I will pay you the money first. As for the mid-grade profound Mother Immortal Steel, there isn't much of it. It would be gone after a few dozen shops." Li Zhen was able to become the owner of a branch of the Immortal Treasure Store. How could he not have any business acumen? If he bought all the low-grade profound Mother Immortal Steel and sold them in batches, the price would be the market price. Adding on the 10% commission, he would be able to earn 30% of the profits. Chapter 2394. Starting tomorrow, 10 chapters, 5 chapters the day after tomorrow, and 5 chapters the day after tomorrow. Yi Qinghan did not care about this small profit. After all, he could only sell it for 70% of the market price, and it would also waste a lot of time. If he was bullied by the big sects and rich families, then not only would he not be able to sell it, but it would also be difficult for him to do anything. There's a total of 200,000 pieces of low-grade profound mother immortal steel. According to the market price, that's around 900 million. If we split it 70%, it'll be 630 million. That 30 million will be used to buy wine for Uncle Li, Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Li Zhen's face turned red, as if he had drunk alcohol. He had made a net profit of 300 million. The monthly turnover of the Immortal Treasure Shop was only this much. This 300 million would go into his private treasury. Li Zhen rubbed his hands and quickly said, "I will withdraw 600 million from the Immortal Treasure Shop's account." With that, Li Zhen directly rushed out of the private room. Qi Dongping's eyes lit up. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to have so many profound mother immortal steel resources. He was also a wily old fox, and when he saw Li Zhen's expression, he knew that he had made a lot of money. He reminded, "Master, this Li family's shopkeeper made a lot of money from you today." Yi Qinghan was open-minded and replied lightly, "He did not make money from me, but from his customers. So don't think too much about it." Qi Dongping was stunned, but he quickly figured it out. Even if Yi Qinghan personally bought it, he would only be able to sell it for 500 million. Moreover, he did not know how many people would refuse to pay him. However, the Li family was different. Therefore, Li Zhen did not earn 300 million from Yi Qinghan. It was just that the resources in Yi Qinghan's hands provided him with this opportunity. After a while, Li Zhen entered the private room with a golden card in his hand. The card had special runes and restrictions on it. This is a special card used between rich and powerful families. It can be used in any large immortal treasure shop. This card represents your identity. Just this card alone is worth 20 million. There are 600 million in here. You must keep it well because anyone can use this card to buy or withdraw. Li Zhen reminded. Yi Qinghan nodded, took the gold card, and handed over all the low-grade Xian Mu in the immortal ring to Li Zhen. "Uncle Li, I'll make a trip to the Jingfan Mountain auction house first. I'll leave this place to you." Yi Qinghan stood up and said respectfully, "You're welcome. Tomorrow, I'll bring a top-grade form transformation pill over." "This is Uncle Li's gift to you," Li Zhen said with a smile. Yi Qinghan pursed his lips and smiled. He did not reject Li Zhen's good intentions and quickly left the Immortal Treasure Shop with Qi Dongping. Just as he stepped out of the Immortal Treasure Shop, more than 10 beams of light flashed past. Many forces were still staring at him, and the entire Immortal Treasure Shop was surrounded. Yi Qinghan sighed. He did not know how to deal with these spies. In the city, he could not beat or scold them. After all, these people did not disturb him, nor did they make a move against him. Which faction do these people belong to? Yi Qinghan calmly asked as he swept his gaze around. Qi Dongping also took a glance. These people looked very ordinary, but their auras were different. They were in groups of 3 to 5 and coordinated with each other. Ordinary people would not be able to tell their true identities. The youth squatting at the stall on the east side of the road is a spy from the 9 Kills sect. Their auras are very unique. The 3 people on the second floor of the tea house should be from the Jingfan Mountain because there is no hostility in their eyes. They are only paying attention to outsiders. As for the group of people with killing intent in their eyes, there is an 80% chance that they are from the Extreme Peak sect. As for the others, I can't be sure, but there are definitely people from the martial arts record system. Qi Dongping's eyes were like torches as he said with certainty. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and snorted, ridiculous. It is understandable that the people from the Extreme Peak sect and the Nine Kills sect are watching me, but why are the other forces interested in me as well? Qi Dongping naturally did not understand and could only smile bitterly. Yi Qinghan shrugged and said, "Ignore them. Bring me to the Jingfan Mountain auction house." Qi Dongping brought Yi Qinghan and rushed towards the center of the city. The Jingfan Mountain was indeed huge, but it was not so huge that even a mystic immortal realm expert would need a few days to traverse it. At the foot of the Jingfan Mountain, there were many palaces. This was the center of the main city, and experts were as common as clouds. Those who were able to establish themselves here were all aristocratic clans. Even powerful sects were unable to establish themselves here because every inch of land here was worth an inch of gold. A large auction house was located at the foot of the mountain. It was a large palace that was similar to a bird's nest. The top of the palace was isolated by an array, and one could see the blue sky and white clouds. One could even see the peak of the mountain. The scenery was elegant and pleasant. There were tens of thousands of seats here. Once there was a large auction, there would definitely be no empty seats. There were people coming and going at the entrance of the auction house. No matter if it was entering or leaving, they were all aristocratic clans or the direct descendants of large sections. They were all extremely wealthy. Half a day later, Yi Qinghan and Qi Dongping arrived at the foot of the Jingfan Mountain from the outskirts of the city. They raised their heads and looked at the huge bird's nest palace that was located at a height of tens of meters. It was majestic and heavy, and it emitted a dignified aura that caused people to involuntarily feel reverence. "Master, this auction house has a golden immortal realm expert overseeing it all year round. No one has ever dared to act tyrannically here," Qi Dongping said softly. Yi Qinghan was rather curious. The Jingfan Mountain auction house was backed by the Jingfan Mountain, and the owner of the Jingfan Mountain was a golden immortal realm expert. He couldn't possibly stay here all year round, right? Qi Dongping seemed to have seen through Yi Qinghan's doubts and explained, "The foundation of this Jingfan Mountain auction house isn't limited to just one golden immortal realm expert. The daily turnover here is at least tens of billions of celestial coins. Without the cooperation of a few golden immortal realm experts, no one would be able to afford it." Yi Qinghan nodded thoughtfully. He followed the crowd and walked towards the auction house's entrance with Qi Dongping. The guards at the entrance were all at the beginner stage of the mystic immortal realm. Anyone who entered the auction house would have to be examined. The standard to enter the auction house was to have a gold card. This kind of gold card would also be sold at the auction house. Moreover, the price was 1,000,000 celestial coins higher than the market price. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and took out the gold card. He waved it in front of the mystic immortal realm guards and then led Qi Dongping into the auction house. The auction house was built along the mountain, forming a huge circular bird's nest. In the middle was the auction stage with ladder-shaped seat. There weren't even private rooms arranged. Those who could sit at the front were all top tycoons. However, there didn't seem to be any treasures appearing now, so there wasn't much traffic. Yi Qinghan found a seat near the front and sat down. There wasn't anyone around, not even the auction stage. "Master, it's resting time now. The auction will start again in an hour. We need to wait for a while," Qi Dongping explained. Yi Qinghan nodded silently. He then closed his eyes and rested. He didn't even bother to observe the surroundings. However, when Yi Qinghan entered the auction house, there were people who noticed him and Qi Dongping. "Qi Dongping, as a deacon of the lower 9 gates, you actually led a defector. Now you even dare to come to the main city. Are you looking down on the 9 Kills sect?" A cold voice resounded throughout the auction house, attracting the attention of hundreds of people. Qi Dongping was also shocked. He looked towards the voice and his body trembled. His face was pale. Yi Qinghan slowly opened his eyes and looked at the other party. It was a middle-aged expert, a peak of the middle stage of the mystic immortal realm. He was almost at the high stage of the mystic immortal realm. The other party's cold killing intent made one's hair stand on end. He is Elder Schwerenfeng of the lower 9 gates. Let's leave. Qi Dongping said in fear. Yi Qinghan snorted and said indifferently, sit down. This is the Jingfan Mountain Auction House, not the 9 Kills sect. Chapter 2395. Hundreds of experts noticed Yi Qinghan and were stunned by his casual words. This guy even dared to offend the 9 Kills sect. Other than the Immortal Empire, there were only a few forces that could be compared to the 9 Kills sect. Eastern Emperor's Bloodline, Extreme Peak Mountain, Employment Hall, Revered Dragon Manor. There were no more than 10 such forces. Even if the hidden aristocratic clans and ancient sects were included, there weren't many of them. Who is this guy? He actually dared to speak to Elder Shui in such a manner. Could he be a young master of some major force? What young master? Have you ever seen a direct descendant of a major force with a spiritual body? Then why does he dare to speak to an elder of the 9 Kills sect in such a manner? Everyone was in a heated discussion. There were also some extremely powerful mystic, immortal elders who coldly glanced at Yi Qinghan. However, their status was very high and they didn't care about the grudges between Yi Qinghan and the 9 Kills sect. Schwerenfeng's face was cold and his malicious eyes were emitting killing intent. A powerful aura was faintly discernible. If this wasn't the Jingfan Mountain Auction House, Yi Qinghan and Qi Dongping would already be dead. Yi Qinghan didn't even look at Schwerenfeng. He closed his eyes again and waited for the auction to begin. Qi Dongping's forehead was covered in cold sweat, and even the clothes on his back were soaked. He was restless and wanted to leave, but Yi Qinghan didn't want to leave. Qi Dongping had no choice but to wait silently. Qi Dongping, don't think that you can betray the 9 Kills sect just because you're alone. If you don't pay the price, how can my 9 Kills sect establish itself in the undying immortal world? Schwerenfeng shouted. Yi Qinghan's divine sense covered Qi Dongping and found that even his breathing had changed. He must be extremely afraid. He opened his eyes and said coldly to Schwerenfeng, if you have something to say, then say it. This is the Jingfan Mountain Auction House. I don't think you dare to make a move. Since you don't dare to make a move, then sit at the side and shut up. Otherwise, you'll become a laughing stock. Ka ka ka. Schwerenfeng's blood and qi surged. He was so angry that he almost lost his mind. He clenched his fists tightly, but in the end, he managed to hold himself back. Otherwise, this punch would have killed Yi Qinghan. The intense airflow swept through the auction house, attracting the attention of even more experts. However, there were also many who frowned and looked at Schwerenfeng, expressing their displeasure at his interruption. Brat, you dare to talk to this old man like that? I'll make you regret being alive in the future. Schwerenfeng shouted angrily. Boom! A terrifying aura enveloped the entire auction house. The laws of the world converged to form a hand, which descended from the sky to appear before Schwerenfeng. Its 5 fingers clenched tightly as it lifted Schwerenfeng up. Little Schwe, you seem to have forgotten where you are? Jingfan Mountain isn't a place where you can behave atrociously. Let alone you, even if the 9 Kills sect master personally came, he would still have to behave himself in Jingfan Mountain. If you want to continue participating in the auction, then sit down obediently. If you don't want to, then you can leave now. Once you leave Jingfan Mountain's main city, you will have your revenge. A cold voice that contained the laws of the world rang out, making it so that no one dared to disobey. The surrounding air froze. Even the breath contained the sharp laws of the world. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. He sat up straight, not daring to show the slightest bit of disrespect. However, he wasn't sure if this person was a golden immortal because when he and Mount Jade were attacked by a golden immortal, That golden immortal was able to control Mount Jade's life and death despite being separated by countless li. However, this person didn't seem to be so exaggerated. Schwerenfeng's face turned purple as his veins bulged. Although it was just a large hand formed by airflow, it was as hard as steel. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free from its grasp. Lord Zhang Fan, this junior knows his mistake. Schwerenfeng cried out in horror. Zhang Fan, the resident elder of Jingfan Mountain. He wasn't a golden immortal, but he was a peak existence at the great circle of the profound immortal realm. He already had half a foot in the golden immortal realm and had comprehended a portion of the golden immortal law. In terms of strength, he was one of the strongest experts in the profound immortal realm. Bang. Schwerenfeng was directly thrown down by that hand. At this moment, he couldn't even use a bit of immortal energy. This was the difference between a great circle of the profound immortal realm expert and a mid-level profound immortal realm expert. Huff. Schwerenfeng panted heavily. He didn't even have the strength to look at Yi Qinghan. He also didn't dare to recklessly provoke anyone in the auction house. This was the rules of the auction house. Even a golden immortal realm expert didn't make a move. Just a resident elder was able to intimidate everyone. This clearly showed the strength of the auction house. Yi Qinghan was also stunned by the strength of the auction house. A resident elder was already so strong. If the backer of the auction house was to personally make a move, other than the Immortal Empire, no one would dare to mess around. The auction house fell into a dead silence. Although Schwerenfeng was taught a lesson, he didn't leave. After he sat up, he glared at Yi Qinghan and Qi Dongping with resentment. That resentment was enough to kill. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan didn't even want to bother with him, and Qi Dongping didn't dare to look at him. All he could do was stare. Time passed by slowly. 2 hours later, the auction finally resumed. Yi Qinghan's spirit was lifted once again. He had more than 700 million on him now. His purchasing power was definitely stronger than some of the wealthy clans. After all, he had nothing to worry about. Hua, a beautiful fairy in a white dress, rose from below the auction stage. It turned out that there was another world at the center of the auction stage. That girl looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. Her beauty was beyond words. Her clothes were as thin as a cicada's wings, and they were almost transparent. Her skin was as white as snow, and it was very captivating. Good afternoon, fellow Taoists. For the next 12 hours, I, Yao Zishan, will be hosting the auction for everyone. I hope everyone will give me some face and participate enthusiastically. That beautiful young girl's voice was like the sound of nature. It lingered for a long time, and it caused all men's hormones to rise without limit. She was naturally seductive, and there was even a hint of a fox's charm. Her eyes and smile were indeed enough to drive men crazy. Yi Qinghan could tell at a glance that this girl, Yao Zishan, was definitely not human. Her original form was most likely a fox. However, she was of a higher level than Little White Fox Immortal, so she was even more charming. Gulp, Qi Dongping couldn't help but swallow his saliva. His eyes were fixed on Yao Zishan in the auction hall, and his eyes were shining. Everyone's eyes were more or less shining with a golden light. Even those high and mighty clan heads and elders were no exception. It seemed like this woman was something that could only be hoped for. Otherwise, she wouldn't have caused so many people to go crazy. Yi Qinghan's gaze was like water, and there were no ripples. His state of mind would no longer be affected by a woman. Yao Zishan's gaze seemed to have a mind of its own. It was as if she was looking at everyone. When her gaze landed on Yi Qinghan, she couldn't help but be stunned by his gaze. She didn't expect that there would be someone in this world who could be so unmoved when facing her. Yao Zishan smiled and nodded kindly. Everyone thought that she was smiling at them, and they were shouting crazily. Their heavy breathing was undulating. Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose. He was a little suspicious of Yao Zishan's true identity. She was just an auctioneer. No matter how attractive her charm and face were, it shouldn't be enough to drive everyone crazy. Chapter 2396. Yao Zishan was a very strange name. She was a demoness who could stir up an entire crowd. Her disdainful smile could topple all living things, but she couldn't even win a burning gaze from Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan silently waited for the auction item to appear. Yao Zishan saw that Yi Qinghan didn't have any reaction, so she didn't do anything unnecessary. She placed her hand on the auction table and said with a smile, "There aren't many people here now, but in 2 hours there will be no empty seats. Please look forward to the unparalleled treasures in this auction." Yi Qinghan was stunned. Today's auction wasn't anything special. Could it be that he was going to miss it? Everyone was discussing softly. They looked around and realized that there were only a few hundred people in the auction house. It was considered the auction with the least amount of people. Previously, the auction house had always announced that today's auction was dispensable. They didn't expect that there was a hidden agenda. They didn't want others to come and the auction house would invite them alone. The Jingfan Mountain Auction House clearly stated that they couldn't stop the auction at will. They couldn't refuse people who had the purchasing power to enter the auction house. However, having the purchasing power didn't mean that they had the ability to buy unparalleled treasures. Just like Yi Qinghan, once the price exceeded 800 million, he wouldn't be able to buy it. However, he occupied a seat, which was equivalent to wasting a seat in the auction house. Therefore, the Jingfan Mountain Auction House used a little trick this time, which caused the number of people today to be especially low. Yao Zishan started the auction. The items that were brought out earlier were all extremely trashy. There wasn't a single decent item. After an hour, even Yi Qinghan was speechless. Such a huge auction house actually did such a thing. It was simply lowly to the extreme. Some experts who couldn't buy the unparalleled treasures didn't want to waste time, so they simply left. It was obvious that not everyone liked to watch a show. After a while, about half of the few hundred people left. There were only about 120 people left. However, these 120 people had a very strong purchasing power. However, it didn't eliminate the possibility that some people who liked to watch a show were bored and chose to stay to watch today's main event. 2 hours later, the auction came to an abrupt end. The 4 doors of the auction house opened at the same time as a large number of experts swarmed in. There were actually over 70% of them who were at the mystic immortal realm. Even for the heavenly immortal realm experts, they were all at the perfection stage. Everyone had a powerful aura around them. All of them were experts from the prominent clans and powerful sections. They entered the auction house in an orderly manner and sat in their own seats. Not long after, a middle-aged man arrived in front of Yi Qinghan and said lightly, "Please ask your guard to leave. He is not qualified to continue enjoying this auction." Obviously, the auction house was going to start cleaning up some unnecessary people. Yi Qinghan glanced at Qi Dongping, then nodded and said, "Go outside and wait for me. No matter which force wants you to leave, don't leave, including the 9 Kills sect." Qi Dongping nodded repeatedly and quickly left his seat. Not long after, the middle-aged man from before brought in a beautiful young woman. A faint fragrance assailed his nostrils. She was dressed fashionably. She did not look like a young married woman. Usually, no woman from a wealthy family would be allowed to dress like this. Her voluptuous body and enchanting figure were definitely top-quality beauties in bed. Yi Qinghan's eyelids twitched. He looked at the new woman warily. She was only 24 or 25 years old, but she was mature and charming to the extreme. More importantly, there was a faint killing intent on her body, which made the pressure in his heart even more intense. "Is she targeting me?" Yi Qinghan clenched his fist. He did not dare to believe that she would dare to make a move against him in the auction house. However, He had always believed in himself. Whether this person was from the Endless Peaks sect or the Nine Kills sect, for her to be placed beside him meant that the other party was determined to obtain him. Oh, what a handsome little brother! I thought that I would be sitting with a stinky man for 10 hours. The young woman's slender legs were exposed. Her legs were crossed, and her snow-white skin was so fleshy that it seemed like it would break with a flick of a finger. Yi Qinghan and the young woman were seated in pairs. If one of them suddenly exploded, even a golden immortal almighty would not be able to stop her. Yi Qinghan sat on pins and needles. The snow flood dragon armor appeared, and the dragon scale soul protecting bell protected his head. He glanced at the young woman from the corner of his eyes. Half of her soft breasts were exposed, and the 2 little pink grapes were faintly discernible. Whoosh! The young woman raised her jade-like hand and pressed it directly on Yi Qinghan's hand. Her fingertips brushed across his body, and Yi Qinghan almost lost control of himself. Little brother, are you looking down on me? I took the initiative to greet you, but you actually ignored me. The young woman said with hidden bitterness. Yi Qinghan wanted to pull his hand out, but the other party's strength was even greater than his. He could not move at all, as if his right hand did not belong to him. Senior, why are you teasing me? Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and said calmly. Look at what you're saying. It's as if I'm very old. You actually called me senior. The young woman was very flirtatious. She slightly twisted her body, and her entire chest was exposed in front of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's hair stood on end. This woman treated others as nothing. The key was that no one dared to take the initiative to look at her. They all pretended not to see her, and their eyes were fixed on the auction stage without blinking. Someone who could make this group of people avoid her was definitely not ordinary. This young woman's background must be very terrifying. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan did not know her identity. He could only speak the truth. The one who is stronger is the teacher. Fairy is already a mid-level Xian immortal. I dare not be impudent. So obedient. I can't bear to kill you. The young woman's fingertips gently slid across Yi Qinghan's arm. She felt that she could ignore Yi Qinghan's defense and kill him directly. She did not even need to alert the people around. Yi Qinghan's soul jumped. This woman was really here for him. Senior, if you kill someone in Jingfan Mountain's auction house, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave Jingfan City. It doesn't matter if you are from the Nine Kills sect or the Extreme Peak sect. It's not worth it to lose a mid-level Xian immortal expert for a heavenly immortal spiritual body like me, right? Yi Qinghan transmitted a warning. The young woman smiled flirtatiously. Her jade-like hand ignored the snow flood dragon armor and directly reached into Yi Qinghan's chest. She slithered around like a snake, and a wave of cold air flowed through his body. It almost froze his soul. If I wanted to kill you, even a golden immortal wouldn't be alarmed. However, I can't bear to kill you now. The young woman transmitted a message indifferently. Hiss hiss hiss. Yi Qinghan's body shook when her jade-like hand slid across his lower abdomen. However, he didn't dare to move. If she really wanted to kill him, she really wouldn't have alarmed a golden immortal. Senior, just tell me what you want. As long as I have it, I will definitely give it to you with both hands. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. The young woman's jade-like hand slid down between her legs. She raised her head and looked at Yi Qinghan seductively. She was like an extinct pure woman. She licked her lips with her long tongue and said seductively, I want your heart. This young woman was obviously teasing Yi Qinghan. Moreover, she was brazen. However, the auction house was already very noisy. There were too many people bidding for unparalleled immortal treasures. Who would care about Yi Qinghan? Chapter 2397. There were tens of thousands of seats in the auction house, and there were no empty seats. Experts were everywhere, and anyone who could be invited by the Jingfan Mountain auction house had the ability to buy. The bidding continued, and Yi Qinghan didn't even hear clearly what the immortal treasure was being auctioned. He didn't have much energy to pay attention to the auction, and all his attention was on the young lady, hoping to break free from her restraints as soon as possible. The sweat on Yi Qinghan's forehead drenched his battle robe and flowed down his temples like rain. He slowly reached out and pressed down on the young woman's hand. He whispered, "Senior, can we wait until the auction is over?" The young lady smiled, and with a flick of her finger, she hit the huge dragon root, which made Yi Qinghan's face twitch, and he didn't dare to move. "Little thing, who asked me to like you so much? I'll respect your wishes and wait until the auction is over." The young lady's smooth hand gently touched the dragon root, and then she pulled it out. Huff! Yi Qinghan's breathing became unstable, and his Dao heart almost collapsed. This woman was too scary, and if she wanted to kill him, she wouldn't be able to alert the guards of the auction house. The second auction item is a pair of golden wolf claws from the ancient golden wolf mystic immortal. It can cut through iron like mud, and as long as a mystic immortal expert refines it, it can easily cut through a mid-tier mystic immortal weapon and fight against a high-level mystic immortal expert. The starting price is 90 million celestial coins, and each bid must be at least 1 million celestial coins higher. Yao Zishan took out a pair of golden wolf claws that were filled with the mysteries of heaven and earth. It was specially refined by an expert, and immortal runes were attached to it. With this pair of wolf claws, one could fight against someone of a higher realm. It was a priceless treasure, and one of the strongest mystic immortal weapons. The ancient golden wolf mystic immortal was also a super expert, and now he was killed, and his claws were cut off and sold. Many mystic immortals called out the price crazily, and in the blink of an eye, it broke the 100 million mark. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes at the golden wolf claws. This was indeed an offensive supreme immortal treasure, but it wasn't his forte. No one in the Kuang sect was good at claw techniques, so he could only watch the experts from the immortal world bid. 130 million. 140 million in the Jingfan Mountain auction house. Money was spent like water. If one did not have a solid foundation, one would not have the qualifications to enter the auction house. Not long after, the price soared to 300 million celestial coins. It was only a pair of golden wolf claws, but to a mystic immortal realm expert, it was a rare treasure. Even peak mystic immortal realm experts participated in the competition. That Shuirenfeng from the lower 9 gates called out the most ferocious bids. Unfortunately, he lost in the end because he couldn't hold on any longer. This idiot, why is he pretending to be rich when he doesn't have money? The young woman covered her cherry lips and laughed. Yi Qinghan glanced at the young woman, and discovered that she was gloating. Her relationship with Shuirenfeng was probably not good, but they were very familiar with each other, and this young woman was probably also from the 9-kill school, and might be an expert from the 9-kill school. The young woman winked at him, causing Yi Qinghan's heart to be in a mess. Soon, the golden wolf claws were bought by an old man for a price of 340 million celestial coins. This was a terrifying price, but with this pair of wolf claws, the old man's combat strength would soar rapidly, and he would become an overlord. The profit the wolf claws would bring him would be far more than 340 million celestial coins. The third auction item was taken out, and it was a delicate box. It was probably an item used by a woman. The young woman's spirit shook, and she said to Yi Qinghan, "Little brother Yi Qinghan, can you give this item to this servant?" Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. If this woman was interested in it, the price would not be lower than the golden wolf claws. This woman really dared to ask for it. "This junior will do his best," Yi Qinghan said softly. The young woman immediately wrapped around Yi Qinghan's arm and said, "This servant likes men like you, generous and forthright." Yi Qinghan felt a chill in his heart. If he was strong enough, he would definitely be able to torture this woman to death. Unfortunately, he had no choice but to lower his head. Hua! Once the delicate box was opened, golden light shone brightly, and mysterious runes enveloped it. The aura of a high-level mystic immortal enveloped Yao Zishan. The third auction item is the mystic immortal hairpin. It was the hairpin of the number 1 beauty in the ancient world. It contains the laws of heaven and earth, and has a top-grade defensive immortal array. As long as a mystic immortal expert wears this immortal hairpin, it can block multiple peak attacks from a high-level mystic immortal expert. As for a mid-level mystic immortal expert, when faced with such a defensive immortal hairpin, they can only look on helplessly. Yao Zishan's face was full of peach blossoms, and his eyes were filled with joy. He pursed his lips and said, "All the women in the world love this item. If you want to woo a woman, this immortal hairpin can make any woman unable to reject you." "Does that include you?" Ha ha ha, it was unknown who shouted this, but it caused the crowd to laugh wildly. If there is a real man who is willing to spend a few $100 million for this little girl without even blinking, then this little girl would naturally be more than happy. Yao Zishan's smile was like a flower as he replied with a smile. However, which member of a large family clan would dare to spend a few $100 million for a woman and disregard the life and death of their sect? Bah! Slut. She's slutty from the inside to the outside, but in the eyes of men, she's extremely pure. How disgusting! The young woman muttered softly. Yi Qinghan was speechless. This woman was too despicable. Only she was allowed to be slutty, but she didn't allow others to flirt at all? The young woman glared at Yi Qinghan and scolded in a low voice, "I'm slutty outside. Others can't see or eat me, but she can eat me as long as she has money." Haha, Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. He really didn't believe that this woman hadn't been eaten by others before. At this moment, the auction house had completely come alive. Who knew how many men had used their wealth to woo Yao Zishan? The starting price of the mystic immortal hairpin is 200 million. Each bid must not be less than 5 million. Yao Zishan was as gentle as water, and his voice was like the sound of nature that spread to every corner. 210 million. Let's do it. 230 million. 240 million. No one increased the bid by 5 million because it would be a waste of time. Yi Qinghan looked silently at the immortal hairpin. He felt that this immortal hairpin was suitable for Emperor Yi. It would be best if he could get it. However, he didn't immediately increase the bid and instead waited. Soon, the price soared to 300 million. The number of people increasing the bid decreased significantly. After all, they all had large clans or sects to support. A few $100 million wasn't a small sum. 350 million. Yi Qinghan raised the bid by 50 million right off the bat. Suddenly, the auction house became terrifyingly quiet. Many people turned to look at Yi Qinghan. They didn't expect a spiritual body to be willing to pay such a high price. So it's a woman without a physical body. She wants to use the immortal hairpin to protect herself. Ha ha ha, she's willing to spend money. Xuerenfeng was the first to jeer and mock Yi Qinghan. Soon, the atmosphere was stirred up, and a large group of experts followed suit. Yi Qinghan was expressionless. This immortal hairpin was too feminine. Otherwise, he would have been willing to wear it himself. 360 million. A young man didn't join in the jeering, but directly raised the bid by 10 million. The young man's aura was restrained, and he looked very ordinary. However, when he raised the bid, no one dared to mock him. In fact, everyone quieted down. He's ranked 32 on the heaven ranking of the Dragon Emperor Immortal Kingdom. He's ranked 4th on the heaven ranking of the Northern Divine Continent. His name is LV Zizhou, and he's a difficult person to deal with. The young woman thought that Yi Qinghan was really bidding for her, so she reminded him. Chapter 2398. In the Northern Divine Region, no one dared to offend LV Zizhou. Even the experts of the older generation had to give him some face. After all, his potential was too great. It was said that he had caught the attention of the royal family and might be in theft as a marquis in the future. Many people looked at Yi Qinghan as if they were looking at a dead man, especially Schwerenfong. He glared at Yi Qinghan hatefully, but he did not dare to bid. If this immortal hairpin fell into his hands, he would even feel like killing himself. A person like him would not spend so much money on a woman. Yi Qinghan silently remembered this name and then said again, 380 million. 390 million. LV Zizhou's aura changed abruptly and increased by another 10 million. 400 million. Yi Qinghan did not hesitate. At this moment, the auction house had become the battlefield between LV Zizhou and Yi Qinghan. Yao Zishan looked at the two with bright eyes. If LV Zizhou had bid for the immortal hairpin for her, she would have agreed without hesitation. However, if it was Yi Qinghan, she would have to reconsider. After all, Yi Qinghan was a spiritual body and had exhausted his potential. No matter how handsome and elegant he was, it was not worth mentioning. However, LV Zizhou hesitated. He only had 400 million in asset. If he bid any higher, he would have to use his family's assets. This was not something he could afford. LV Zizhou turned to look at Yi Qinghan and saw that Yi Qinghan was expressionless. He did not know how much more he would bid. However, when he saw the young woman's expression, he thought that Yi Qinghan was buying it for her. His heart sank. Widow Ju, it's actually her. LV Zizhou muttered to himself and gave up on bidding. Widow Ju was a sect leader of the 9 Kills sect. She had killed countless people. It was said that she had also met countless people. As long as she took a fancy to a man, they would all be robbed of their yang qi and die tragically. This kind of person killed without leaving a trace. Even if she killed someone in the city, the experts in the main city would not be able to find any evidence. LV Zizhou didn't want to offend Widow Ju, so he nodded kindly. Then, he turned his head and said nothing. The Widow Ju was laughing so hard that she was trembling. She was so excited that she wrapped her arms around Yi Qinghan's arm. She did not expect that Yi Qinghan would really buy an immortal hairpin for her. Little brother Yi Qinghan, I didn't think you would actually buy the immortal hairpin for me. The Widow Ju's body emitted an uncontrollable aura as she clung onto Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan smiled silently and rubbed his fingertips together. He did not tell her who the hairpin was going to be given to. Although Yao Zishan was expressionless, he despised Yi Qinghan from the bottom of his heart. He thought to himself, stinking man, provoking Widow Ju. You won't even know how you died. I was still thinking of how to reject you. I didn't expect you to give the immortal hairpin to a slut. Slap. Yao Zishan was a top-quality auctioneer after all, and he quickly restrained his emotions. He snapped his fingers and said to a profound immortal realm expert behind him, "Give the immortal hairpin to this fellow Taoist and hand over the celestial coins." Whoosh! The delicate box was closed, and the profound immortal realm middle-aged man quickly brought the box to Yi Qinghan's side. Yi Qinghan took out his gold card and quickly handed over 400 million celestial coins. Then, he took the delicate box and waved his hand to send it into his immortal ring. The Widow Ju, who was originally smiling like a flower, suddenly changed her expression and looked at Yi Qinghan with a malicious expression. Yi Qinghan said indifferently, "I am a weapon refiner. Please allow me to research it for a few days. How about it?" The Widow Ju's expression changed again. She smiled and said, "Oh, I really didn't expect you to be a weapon refiner. If you can research it and make a few more imitations, even if the power is only 10%, the price of each immortal hairpin would still be 30 million celestial coins." Yi Qinghan smiled silently and continued to look at Yao Zishan, waiting for the next auction item. Yao Zishan looked at Yi Qinghan mockingly. Then, he took out a saber. It was very thin and looked like a horizontal saber. It was about 1.5 meters long and had a sharp edge. Cold light shot out in all directions, and its impact was definitely very terrifying. This horizontal saber is called the Tonggu horizontal saber. It was made by the weapon refiner Lord Tang Xun and is a mid-tier profound immortal realm expert. It has 3,000 arrays built into it for both offense and defense. It can increase the power of anyone below the mid-tier profound immortal realm by more than 100%. It can even increase the power of a high-level profound immortal realm expert by 10%. The starting price is 100 million celestial coins. Yao Zishan held the Tonggu horizontal saber in his hand and treated it like a treasure. The moment he took out the saber, the entire space distorted and the sound of the saber whistling rushed into the clouds. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. He loved sabers and fell in love with this Tonggu horizontal saber at first sight. To be able to forge such an immortal weapon, the person's understanding of arrays and immortal arrays must be at the peak of perfection. If I hold the Tonggu horizontal saber and completely refine it, I can understand the immortal arrays and arrays on it. It's not impossible for me to kill a low-tier profound immortal realm expert. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He clenched his fists and decided to fight for it with all his might. Soon, the price soared to 150 million celestial coins. Master Tang Xun's name alone was worth 100 million celestial coins. He was one of the top 10 weapon refiners in the undying immortal realm. Any random item he made was of the mid-tier profound immortal realm. Some golden immortal realm experts would personally ask Tang Xun to forge an immortal weapon. 200 million. Yi Qinghan immediately called out a high price. 230 million. LV Zizhou's bid also soared by 30 million celestial coins. Even if he couldn't use an immortal weapon made by such a master, the price would only increase and not depreciate if he kept it as a collection. 260 million. 270 million. 290 million. The price soared like water. However, most of the bidders were young people. Each of them had a majestic aura and a majestic aura. The young people who are bidding now are all on the heaven roll of the northern divine region. The remaining 4 old people are all elders of rich and powerful families. They all have elites on the heaven roll in their families. Don't even think about getting it without 400 million. Widow Ju said calmly. Yi Qinghan's breath stopped. He only had 700 million celestial coins. After spending 400 million on the immortal hairpin, he only had 300 million left. If he wanted to increase the price, he could only rely on the mid-tier profound immortal mother. 340 million. Yi Qinghan's price soared again. He called out all the celestial coins he had. Widow Ju looked at Yi Qinghan curiously and asked, "You're just a small itinerant cultivator. Where did you get so many celestial coins?" Yi Qinghan clenched his fist. He was very nervous. With this Tonggu saber, even if he could not defeat Widow Ju, he would not be helpless. As long as he could escape back to the Li family's immortal treasure shop, no one in the city would be able to kill him silently with the help of the Mount Ju beast. 350 million. The elder of the Shangguan clan of the northern divine region called out the price. All the young people gave up. There was no need to spend more than 360 million for this Tonggu saber. Yi Qinghan remained silent. He did not have any extra money on him. The elder of the Shangguan clan was full of smiles. 350 million for this Tonggu saber was not a loss. No more money? Widow Ju asked when she saw Yi Qinghan's helpless expression. Yi Qinghan nodded. He did not know if he could use mid-tier profound immortal mother instead of celestial coins to bid. Yao Zishan saw that Yi Qinghan had stopped bidding and could not help but feel a little disappointed. No one else was bidding. This price was not ideal. 350 million going once. Is there no one else bidding? This is an immortal weapon from Master Tang Xun. If you're wrong, there won't be such a shop in this village. Yao Zishan smiled as he looked around. Still, no one was bidding. 350 million going twice. After 3 breaths, Yao Zishan called out again. Do you want me to lend you some? But you have to give me the immortal hairpin as collateral, Widow Ju said with a smile. Chapter 2399. This is just the beginning. There will be at least 5 more chapters tomorrow. As for the rest, it will depend on you guys. More than 100,000 new subscriptions, 3 more chapters. Widow Ju had ulterior motives. She had lent Yi Qinghan money so that Yi Qinghan could buy the Tonggu horizontal saber. In the end, it would become hers. She wanted the immortal hairpin even more. Yi Qinghan shook his head. Naturally, he was unwilling to give the immortal hairpin to Widow Ju. Then, he raised his hand to signal Yao Zishan. Yao Zishan looked at Yi Qinghan and asked, Does this fellow Taoist have any questions? Yi Qinghan stood up and asked, Can we use mid-grade Mystic Mother immortal steel instead of immortal coins? Yao Zishan nodded and said, No problem at all. However, it will be 20% lower than the market price. Yi Qinghan let out a breath of turbid air and immediately said, 370 million. The Shangguan family elder's expression changed. The Shangguan family was one of the 5 great clans of Jingfan Mountain. Where did this kid come from? He was actually competing with the Shangguan family for a treasure. However, the Tonggu horizontal saber's value was there for all to see. 400 million was the upper limit. Any higher and the great clans would not do business at a loss. Elder Shangguan looked at Yi Qinghan's posture and thought that he was not trying to collect it. This kind of person was willing to risk his life to increase his combat strength. Since he could not buy it, he would not bid anymore. If it exceeded 20 million, he would need 22 pieces of mid-grade Mystic Mother immortal steel to replace it. Even Elder Shangguan did not bid anymore. The others had also reached their bottom line. The Tonggu horizontal saber was Yi Qinghan's possession. Yi Qinghan was out of money and did not want to participate in the bidding. Instead, he stood up and personally took the Tonggu horizontal saber. After the transaction, he asked excitedly, I wonder if you can provide me with a quiet place. I want to refine this Tonggu horizontal saber. Widow Ju's eyes flashed. She suddenly felt that Yi Qinghan was not prepared to give the immortal hairpin to her. It was as if she felt that she had been played. Yo, Sect Master Ju, it seems like you've been played by a little man. Xuerenfeng mocked him through telepathy. Widow Ju's killing intent flashed as she replied coldly, Get lost. Xuerenfeng laughed gloatingly. He was the elder of the lower 9 gates, while Widow Ju was the leader of the upper 9 gate. They belonged to 2 different systems, so he didn't care about Widow Ju's attitude at all. However, at this time, Yao Zishan had already nodded and agreed to allow Yi Qinghan to enter the private room to refine the Tonggu saber. After all, Yi Qinghan had spent nearly 800 million here. If he couldn't even get a private room, wouldn't the auction house become a stingy place? Yi Qinghan let out a sigh of relief. He turned around and saw Widow Ju staring at him with a gloomy face. He couldn't help but smile and nod to her to calm down. He was really afraid that this woman would do something desperate. Widow Ju wasn't sure what Yi Qinghan was thinking. However, she couldn't act recklessly in the auction house, so she could only wait patiently. Yi Qinghan followed a mystic immortal realm expert down the auction stage. There was another world below the auction stage. There was a separate space where many experts lived in seclusion. The immortal Qi here wasn't any inferior to Jingfan Mountain. Fellow Taoist, please don't wander around here. Otherwise, barging into the training grounds of other seniors will be a capital offense. The low-level mystic immortal realm guard warned in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan nodded. He glanced around and felt that there was a huge training ground behind every door. Those who could cultivate here were at least mid-level mystic immortal realm expert. That low-level mystic immortal realm guard quickly brought Yi Qinghan to a side door. With a swipe of the card in his hand, the door opened automatically. What entered his eyes wasn't a room but a large training ground. It was filled with immortal technique runes that could isolate the attacks of mystic, immortal realm expert. The space inside was also very stable. It was suitable for high-level mystic, immortal realm experts to cultivate here without alerting anyone. I'll give you 10 days. After 10 days, I'll come and fetch you. That guard bowed and cupped his fists. Yi Qinghan nodded repeatedly. Thank you. Whoosh. Yi Qinghan stepped into the training ground alone. The materials here were actually all mystic, immortal realm diamond stones. Just this training ground alone was worth over 100 million immortal coins. It could be seen how deep the foundation of Jingfan Mountain's auction house was. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He felt that the immortal qi in the training ground was incomparably dense. It even directly entered his body. He couldn't help but feel excited. Unfortunately, 10 days was too short. Swish. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and brandished the Tonggu blade. The sharp blade produced a whistling sound that collided with the surroundings of the training ground and produced intense reverberations. This Tonggu blade seemed to have been made for Yi Qinghan. Perfect. Immortal rune forbidden technique that alternates between offensive and defensive formations. A master refiner is truly a master. As long as I can refine this Tonggu blade and fully understand the immortal rune forbidden technique and the formations within, I can increase my strength by several times. I can even replicate a low-level Tonggu blade. Yi Qinghan sat cross-legged on the ground. He bit his fingertip and dripped a drop of his blood onto the blade. The Tonggu blade directly absorbed the drop of blood into the blade. Boom! The moment the drop of blood entered the Tonggu blade, a large amount of terrifying immortal rune forbidden technique and the technique of using the Tonggu blade were transmitted into Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness. This Tonggu blade came with its own inheritance. It completely saved the time needed to refine the Tonggu blade and sped up the cultivation progress of the buyer. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He did not expect the Tonggu blade to have such an effect. The advantages of the Tonggu blade were all stored within the blade. As long as the owner dripped a drop of blood on it, it would automatically be transmitted to the owner's sea of consciousness. This was the work of a true master refiner. I'm ashamed of my inferiority, Yi Qinghan exclaimed. He began to restrain his fluctuating heart and closed his eyes to refine the Tonggu blade. He was becoming more and more compatible with the Tonggu blade. One with the blade. Yi Qinghan only needed to do this step. The Tonggu blade also had its own spirituality. It could feel Yi Qinghan's love for the blade and happily cooperated with Yi Qinghan. True immortal weapons all had their own spirituality. As the emperors of weapons, swords and sabers naturally had their own spirituality. The Tonggu blade naturally hoped to have a master who understood it. Whoosh! A virtual Tonggu blade appeared behind Yi Qinghan's back. It constantly moved around as fast as lightning and its aura was like a rainbow. It had already drawn a circular defensive air shield around it. The immortal killing pattern contained the ultimate attack. The defensive immortal formation increased the hardness of the Tonggu blade by several levels. This blade might not be as hard as the sky-swallowing cauldron, but the Mount Jade beast would definitely not be able to bite through the Tonggu blade. Time flowed like water. Yi Qinghan spent several hours and finally reached one with the blade. This was very fast. Moreover, the Tonggu blade actively cooperated with him. Otherwise, he would not have been able to do it without 3 to 5 days. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan became one with the blade. He stood up and brandished the Tonggu blade. Every blade carried an aura that could split heaven and earth. It cut through time and space. His black hair danced and the entire training hall produced a roaring sound of blade whistling. Boom! The Tonggu blade swept through time and space as if the training hall was about to be cut open. However, the training hall was protected by a supreme formation. With Yi Qinghan's combat power, he could not destroy it. Whoosh, whoosh, Yi Qinghan leaped into the air and turned, leaving afterimages. The blade in his hand was like a part of his body. His attacks were as smooth as flowing water, breaking through the void. His combat power was far beyond the beginner celestial stage. Bang! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's aura suddenly increased by several times. He rushed from the beginner celestial stage to the intermediate celestial stage. His combat power increased by more than 10 times. Boom! Roar! The Tengu blade exploded with its peak power, shaking the training hall. The formation was completely activated and light shone in all directions. Huff huff huff, Yi Qinghan sheathed his blade. His face was rosy as he caressed the Tengu blade in his hand. Although it did not have the domineering aura of Zhongquang, it had the noble aura of an emperor. If he could cooperate with Zhongquang, he would definitely look down on the world. Please recommend me. Your support is my motivation. Chapter 2400. Yi Qinghan was refining the Tengu saber in the training hall, but the auction outside had already ended. A large number of experts had left, but Qi Dongping was still waiting outside. Xuerenfeng and Widow Ju walked out with a gloomy expression and bumped into Qi Dongping. Widow Ju was not only the sect master of the Ju sect, but she was also the law enforcement elder of the 9 Kills sect. She was in charge of cleaning up the sect, so she had the absolute right to deal with Qi Dongping. Even the laws of Jingfan City had to give in. Widow Ju glanced at Qi Dongping and said coldly, "Follow me." Qi Dongping was several times more afraid when he saw Widow Ju than when he saw Xuerenfeng. He was trembling all over. It was not that he was a coward, but Widow Ju's reputation was too terrifying. I've already left the 9 Kills sect, Qi Dongping said with a trembling voice. Widow Ju sneered and asked, "Is the 9 Kills sect a place where you can enter and leave as you please?" Qi Dongping was sweating profusely. He kept wiping his sweat with his sleeves and begged, "Sect Master Ju, I beg you. Please spare me this time. I don't want to die. I had no choice but to submit to Mr. Yi. It took me so much effort to reach the mystic immortal level. Who would want to die?" He Xuerenfeng sneered and said, "You'll understand in a while. Actually, it's better to be dead than alive." Qi Dongping's courage was about to be shattered. Terror had broken through his bottom line of defense, and he cried out in despair, "This is Jingfan Mountain, you can't attack me." Widow Ju sneered in disdain, "Even if I can't do anything to you in Jingfan Mountain, do you think you can stay here forever? As long as you leave the foot of Jingfan Mountain, even the laws of the main city can't stop me if I want to take you away. You'd better follow me obediently. Otherwise, you'll have to suffer." Qi Dongping retreated and said in horror, "Master said that no one can take me away today. I have to wait for him." Qi Dongping placed his last hope of survival on Yi Qinghan and waited for Yi Qinghan to appear. When Widow Ju heard that Qi Dongping had placed his hope of survival on Yi Qinghan, the murderous intent in her eyes grew even stronger. "He can't even protect himself, and you think he can protect you?" Xuerenfeng sneered. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, Qi Dongping's eyes were filled with despair, but he had no way out. As long as he left the auction house, the Widow Ju could easily take him away. The main city's laws would not be able to restrict her. Now, he could only rely on Jingfan Mountain's reputation to intimidate the Widow Ju. Widow Ju did not intend to take Qi Dongping away from Jingfan Mountain. She just looked at him coldly and said, "I'll wait for you at the foot of the mountain. If you follow me obediently today, I can let you die a quick death. Otherwise, Whoosh, Widow Ju's thin clothes fluttered in the wind. Her fragrance was overwhelming, but no one dared to approach her. They didn't even dare to look at her. Qi Dongping looked at the Widow Ju's back and then at the auction house. Everyone had left, but Yi Qinghan still had not appeared. He could not help but feel anxious. Feng and the widow Ju looked at Qi Dongping coldly at the foot of the mountain. As soon as Qi Dongping came down, they could take him away. Jingfan Mountain's auction house would not interfere with their actions. As for the main city's laws, they would usually give in to these powerful forces. Especially when it came to cleaning up the house, that was their internal affairs. The patrol team would definitely not interfere if they could. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had just put away his saber. Looking at the immortal Qi in the training hall, it was definitely the best place to cultivate. He wanted to continue cultivating for a few more days, but Qi Dongping was still waiting outside. He might not care about Qi Dongping's life, but he cared about the divine bird. If anything happened to the divine bird, he would regret it to death. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan opened the door of the training hall and walked out. His battle robe was brimming with saber radiance and battle qi. He held his Tonggu saber and walked out. Soon, a guard noticed him. He was a little puzzled and asked, "Fellow Taoist, aren't you refining the Tonggu saber? Why did you come out?" Yi Qinghan said calmly, "I've already refined it. Bring me up." The guard did not understand the Tonggu saber, but he naturally would not object to Yi Qinghan's decision to leave. He led Yi Qinghan to the auction stage. There was no one left in the auction house at night. Yi Qinghan immediately asked, "How long has it been since the auction ended?" 3 incense sticks worth of time, the guard immediately replied. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan rushed to the main entrance of the auction house. After a few breaths, he appeared at the main entrance. He scanned the surroundings and did not see Qi Dongping. He quickly rushed to the foot of the mountain. Halfway there, Qi Dongping was walking to the foot of the mountain in despair. The widow Ju and Feng were waiting with gloomy faces. Slap! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and pressed on Qi Dongping's shoulder. He said coldly, "Didn't I say that you're not allowed to go anywhere before I come out?" Thump! Qi Dongping's legs went soft. He directly knelt in front of Yi Qinghan. He was pleasantly surprised and said in fear, "Master, save me. That young woman is the leader of the Jew sect of the Upper Nine Gate. She's also the law-enforcing elder. If I'm taken away by them, I'll definitely die." Whoosh! Yi Qinghan looked at the widow Ju and Feng, who were not far away. He gently unsheathed the Tonggu saber in his hand. The saber whistled in the wind. "Yo, little brother Yi, you're really fast. It only took you 10 hours to refine the Tonggu saber. I'm really impressed." The widow Ju covered her mouth and laughed as if Yi Qinghan was a piece of fat meat. She thought that she couldn't wait any longer. Who would have thought that Yi Qinghan would come out on his own? Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and said calmly, "So it's the Jew sect leader of the Upper Nine Gates of the Nine Kills sect. I've heard a lot about you. Can you let me take Qi Dongping away today?" "Letting you take Qi Dongping away is equivalent to taking away my Nine Kills sect's face. Do you think I can let you take him away?" the widow Ju asked in disdain. Yi Qinghan's aura suddenly erupted. The Tonggu saber's saber energy cut through space and time. The immortal runes shone brightly for 10 miles. "I want to try." Yi Qinghan slowly pulled out the Tonggu saber and walked down the mountain slowly. "Ha ha ha!" The widow Ju laughed like a flower. Her chest heaved up and down, almost jumping out of her clothes. "This is the funniest joke I've heard in my life. A puny early stage, immortal heaven immortal. Oh no, he's already a mid-stage great expert. He actually wants to challenge the sect leader of the Upper Nine Gates of the Nine Kills sect. I'm so scared." The widow Ju teased. Yi Qinghan gripped the Tonggu saber tightly. The Nine Kills sect wanted face. How could he not want it? If he let the widow Ju take Qi Dongping away today, who would dare to be loyal to him in the future? Whether it's a joke or not, you'll know after you try. Yi Qinghan resolutely stepped down Jingfan Mountain. Hum whoosh! A cold light flashed as the saber pierced through the clouds. The widow Ju disappeared in front of Yi Qinghan and slid past Yi Qinghan's waist in the blink of an eye. Boom! Swish! The Tengu saber tore through space and time. The powerful immortal runes were vast and mighty. However, it didn't hit the widow Jew. Instead, the snow flood dragon armor on his body was cut apart by the saber. This level of defense was like nothing to the widow Jew. Chapter 2401. Hiss. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. Looking at his broken snow dragon armor, he felt like his guts were about to explode. If Widow Jew had wanted to kill him, he would have been lying on the ground. However, it was not that Widow Jew did not want to kill him, but she could not. They were still at the foot of Jingfan Mountain. She could clean up the sect, but she could not carry out her mission. Sect Master Jew, don't make things difficult for me. Take Schwerenfeng and leave first. Don't make a move in the city. Otherwise, I won't be polite. A majestic voice rang out, causing Widow Jew's expression to change. She had no choice but to bow and retreat. Zhang Fan, the resident elder of Jingfan Mountain Auction House, a mighty figure with half a foot in the golden immortal realm, had spoken. Although he had not shown his true body, he had scared Widow Jew and Shui Renfeng away. Yi Qinghan turned around and bowed gratefully. Thank you for your help, Immortal. I'm so grateful. Zhang Fan did not appear, but he sent a cold voice transmission. It's my duty. It has nothing to do with gratitude. You should leave too. Take care of yourself. Experts did not care if Yi Qinghan was grateful or not. Moreover, he was just carrying out his duty. Yi Qinghan bowed and retreated with Qi Dongping. At this time, the official road was particularly lively. Most of the people were young. It was a sea of people, brightly lit, and there were all kinds of snacks and street stalls. There were handsome men and beautiful women in pairs. Yi Qinghan quickly passed through with Qi Dongping. He was very vigilant because Widow Jew did not really leave. She was tailing the two of them, looking for an opportunity to make a move. Widow Jew tailed them all the way, occasionally passing through rooftop. She was so quiet that even Yi Qinghan could not sense her exact location. At this time, a figure stopped Yi Qinghan. Yao Zishan. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He could not help but feel surprised. He did not expect her to come. However, he could use her as much as he could. With Yao Zishan here, Widow Jew could not casually make a move. If she hurt the people of Jingfan Mountain, she would not be able to explain. Fellow Daoist Yi, I didn't expect to see you here, Yao Zishan said gently. Yi Qinghan responded with a smile. Actually, he knew that Yao Zishan was looking for him on purpose. It was all for the immortal hairpin. It was a pity that he was not a man who would spend money recklessly for a woman. So it's the demon fairy. What a coincidence. Where are you going? Yi Qinghan asked with a smile. Yao Zishan replied with a smile. I'm going to the Li family's immortal treasure shop. Fellow Daoist Li Zhen and I have had business dealings before. I would like to ask him for a favor today. If it's on the way, let's go together. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. Both sides knew that Yao Zishan must have investigated Yi Qinghan and even knew where he lived. Yi Qinghan gestured with his hand and said, Then please, Demon Fairy. We're going the same way. The three of them walked side by side towards the Li family's immortal treasure shop on the outskirts of the city slowly. Yao Zishan was indeed an auctioneer. Even if he had nothing to say, he could make Yi Qinghan talk in all sorts of ways. He was eloquent and tried to get closer to Yi Qinghan. He hinted to Yi Qinghan that he wanted to have a relationship with him so that he could obtain the mystic fairy hairpin. Yi Qinghan played dumb and did not respond. This immortal hairpin was prepared for Emperor Yi or left for Jian Qinshui. No one else had the right to obtain the immortal hairpin from him. Fellow Daoist Yi, do you have a family? Yao Zishan looked at Yi Qinghan curiously. She had never seen such a stubborn man. She had already made herself very clear, but he was still pretending as if nothing had happened. Yi Qinghan said bluntly, I already have a wife and a child. Ha ha. Fellow Taoist Yi, you're so unromantic that I thought you were alone. Yao Zishan teased him faintly. Yi Qinghan smiled but did not say anything. However, he held the Tonggu saber tightly in his hand. Qi Dongping stuck close to Yi Qinghan. The aura of death had already enveloped him. The widow Ju did not want to wait any longer and was prepared to kill him directly. The saber wind stirred up the nomological laws. Yi Qinghan sensed a different aura. He did not want Qi Dongping to die, at least not at the hands of the 9 Kills sect. Therefore, he was constantly on the defensive. Yao Zishan looked at both sides of the house. She had also discovered the widow Ju and confirmed her exact location. It was obvious that her strength was more terrifying than Yi Qinghan's. Sect Master Ju, are you thinking of attacking in the city? Be careful not to get caught and spanked by Lord Zhang Fan, Yao Zishan teased. His crisp and enchanting voice was not a kind reminder. It was clearly a provocation. It was like a needle pricking the widow Ju's ears. The widow Ju was completely enraged. Her figure flashed and appeared on the roof in front of her. At this moment, the dark night had arrived. There was no one left on this lonely path. Yao Zishan, don't think that you can challenge my dignity just because you have a golden immortal boss. If you anger me, even if you have Jingfan Mountain behind you, I can still kill you, the widow Ju threatened coldly. Yao Zishan retorted and said disdainfully, Sect Master Ju, others might be afraid of you, but I really am not. I know what you want to do. That immortal hairpin is an extremely pure item. It must not fall into the hands of evil people. You should give up. The widow Ju scolded, UB*TCH. If I'm an evil person, what are you? Others may not understand you, but I do. You want to ruin my plans, but you're looking for a high-sounding reason. That immortal hairpin probably isn't my most cherished item, but yours. Don't even think about taking the immortal hairpin away without spending a single cent. I believe Yi Qinghan is not that stupid. At this moment, Yi Qinghan and Qi Dongping had become outsiders. The two women seemed to have a deep enmity. Their resentment exploded at this moment. They released their auras, but no one dared to turn on the lights to watch the show. Yao Zishan smiled faintly, looking extremely charming. He looked up at Yi Qinghan, and his limpid eyes could shatter the hearts of all men. Unfortunately, it could not penetrate Yi Qinghan's defenses. Taoist Yi, if you can only give the immortal hairpin to one of us, would you rather give it to me or this widow Ju who kills without blinking an eye? Yao Zishan bluntly pointed out the widow Ju's weakness. Yao Zishan, do you dare to leave the city? The widow Ju roared. So be it. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Yao Zishan angrily rebuked. People like you who only know how to take things by force should be punished. I don't want Taoist Ye's treasure to be taken away by you, so I escorted you all the way. I do like this immortal hairpin, but if Taoist Yi is unwilling, I will not make things difficult for you. You are different because you don't know how to use the mystic fairy hairpin to display its true power. Yi Qinghan was stunned. He did not expect the mystic fairy hairpin to have other technique. Kaki. The widow Ju sneered. Her killing intent soared to the sky. The curved blade in her hand welcomed the essence of the moonlight and soared into the sky. I'll wait for you outside the city, Yao Zishan. If you don't come, you'll be a stinky fox. Don't make me look down on you. Whoosh! The widow Ju soared into the sky, passing by countless buildings and rushing out of the city. Yi Qinghan said apologetically, I'm really sorry that this matter has implicated Fairy. Yao Zishan smiled faintly and said, Fellow Taoist Yi, you don't have to worry. Although I can't defeat Widow Ju, she can't kill me either. I still have that much confidence. Otherwise, I wouldn't have dared to escort you. Yi Qinghan sighed and said, Thank you for your kindness, Fairy. If I didn't need this hairpin, I would have given it to you. Yao Zishan smiled sweetly and said faintly, Zishan is already very touched by fellow Taoist Ye's words. You should leave this hairpin to your first wife. Yi Qinghan knew that Yao Zishan was retreating in order to gain his favor. But today it was all thanks to her. Otherwise, even if he could survive, Qi Dongping would have died. Welcome everyone to DLC Reading. Looking for recommendation tickets, looking for publicity. There are 3 more chapters in the afternoon. Chapter 2402. Please subscribe. Please recommend me. Welcome to DK Reading Support subscription. The 3 of them sped up and quickly approached the outskirts of the city. Yi Qinghan did not want Qi Dongping to take the risk because of him. Outside the Li family's immortal treasure shop, he arranged for Qi Dongping to enter the courtyard and then pulled out the Jade Mountain Beast. When Li Zhen found out that Yi Qinghan had returned, he hurriedly said, "Nephew, where are you going in the middle of the night? Also, the mystic immortal steel has been sold and I got you a supreme-grade form transformation elixir." Yi Qinghan cupped his fists gratefully and said, "Uncle Li, I'm going out of the city. Please take care of the divine bird for me." Li Zhen did not know what was going on, but when he saw Yao Zishan, he could not help but be shocked. This person was a high-ranking member of Jingfan Mountain and his status was not inferior to the elders of the Li family's headquarters. Li Zhen greets Fairy Yao. Li Zhen hurriedly bowed. Yao Zishan nodded and said, "Don't worry, store owner Li Zhen. Daoist Yi is only accompanying me to the outskirts of the city to meet Widow Ju, this venomous woman. With me around, nothing will happen to him." Yi Qinghan also said confidently, "Uncle Li, don't worry. I have the Jade Mountain Beast. Widow Ju cannot hurt me." Yao Zishan obviously hoped that Yi Qinghan would follow him. Otherwise, who would he be putting on a show for? Yi Qinghan naturally did not want to let Yao Zishan face Widow Ju alone. Furthermore, Xuerenfeng was in the city. If he joined forces with Widow Ju to hurt Yao Zishan, Jingfan Mountain would probably blame him. Da. Without waiting for Li Zhen to agree, Yi Qinghan reached out and pulled Yao Zishan onto the back of the Jade Mountain Beast. Then, they quickly rushed out of the city. The Jade Mountain Beast was so fast that it created a gust of wind. Wherever it passed, everyone retreated. Roar! The Jade Mountain Beast roared and ran as fast as it could. Yao Zishan pretended to lean on Yi Qinghan's chest and looked up at Yi Qinghan like a little girl who worshipped the strong. Any man would go crazy for him. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan would not go crazy. Yi Qinghan gripped his Tonggu saber tightly. His eyes were like torches and he could already see outside the city. Widow Ju stood outside the city, emitting a murderous aura. She seemed to hate Yao Zishan. There was probably another grudge between the two. And Yi. Boom. Mount Jade had an imposing aura. There was no such thing as fear in its bones. As long as it wasn't a golden immortal, it wasn't afraid of anything. Even if it was someone like Zhang Fan who could beat it until it couldn't get up, it would still fight with its life on the line. The Widow Ju clearly hadn't reached Zhang Fan's level, but her strength couldn't be underestimated. It would be very easy for her to bypass the Mount Jade Beast and kill Yi Qinghan. However, at this moment, Widow Ju was clearly targeting the demon Sun Shan. Yi Qinghan had become an outsider. Roar! Mount Ju's roar shook the mountains and rivers, attracting the attention of the patrol team. The searchlights shone on Mount Ju as Yao Zishan's figure flashed and appeared in the patrol team's line of sight. How dare you pretend to be pure when you're ridden by 10,000 men? How shameless! Widow Ju was full of resentment. She looked down on Yao Zishan. Yao Zishan smiled and mocked. Everyone knows who's ridden by 10,000 men. At least I'm still a virgin. What about you? You know best how many men's immortal essence you've harvested. I'm afraid you can't even remember. One was like a shrew, while the other was calm. In terms of temperament, Widow Ju had lost. She had lost completely. From a man's point of view, a woman like Yao Zishan was deeply loved by men. I've never harvested a man's immortal essence. It's all because of you, son of AB** Tsich, slandering me behind my back. If I don't kill you today, my surname isn't Jew. Whoosh! Widow Ju charged at Yao Zishan with her saber. The saber gleam was like a crescent moon. It cut through time and space, shattering the void in the blink of an eye. The immortal runes stirred up 100 miles. A powerful immortal aura swept out. Dust filled the air and covered the sky. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yao Zishan was like a flying snake. His body could twist and turn infinitely. He stuck close to the saber. His long hair and skirt swayed. He was as fast as lightning. Widow Ju couldn't hurt him at all. Yi Qinghan watched from afar. He held his Tonggu saber. Not only did he pay attention to the two's battle, but he also had to be wary of Schwerenfeng's attack. In the city, the patrol team's Lieutenant Gao Sitten was on guard. Yao Zishan was a high-ranking member of the Jingfan Mountain Auction House. He had a golden immortal backing him. Lieutenant Wang, inform Lord Zhang Fan of Jingfan Mountain, Gao Sitten said. Yes, Lieutenant Wang. Lieutenant Wang immediately bowed in response. Just as he was about to leave, a figure flashed and appeared behind the two. Even an expert like Gao Sitten didn't feel anything. It was a majestic middle-aged man. He looked to be in his 40s. He had a square face and an aura of righteousness. He looked like an emperor. His black hair was like ink draping over his shoulders. He was the resident elder of Jingfan Mountain, Zhang Fan. There's no need. I'm here. Zhang Fan's voice was low and deep. It gave people a strong sense of oppression. Greetings, Elder Zhang. Gao Sitten and Lieutenant Wang immediately knelt on one knee. They were extremely respectful. Zhang Fan's eyes were like stars. He watched the two experts fight outside the city. However, he didn't attack immediately because Yao Zishan wasn't at a disadvantage yet. Most importantly, he didn't know why Yao Zishan wanted to help Yi Qinghan. Therefore, he had to respect Yao Zishan's decision. After all, the golden immortal backing her doted on her a lot. He even took her as his goddaughter. She was already a count. Get up. Inform your subordinates not to enter the battle zone. I'll take over personally, Zhang Fan said calmly. Yes, my lord. Gao Sitten was swift and decisive. His military style was unusually steady. Therefore, he was well liked by the higher-ups of Jingfan Mountain. Whoosh! Gao Sitten quickly left with Lieutenant Wang. He ordered his subordinates not to interfere. Outside the city, a figure was slowly approaching. It was Schwerenfeng who had disappeared. The Mount Jade Beast was probably attracted by the battle between the two women. It didn't notice Schwerenfeng's approach. However, Zhang Fan saw everything clearly from a watchtower in the city. However, he didn't warn Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan held the Tonggu saber in his right hand. The saber was already unsheathed. The saber's blade shone brightly against the moonlight. It whistled in the wind. Boom! Whoosh! Schwerenfeng descended from the sky like a rock spreading its wings. His sword pierced through the 9 heavens and slashed at Yi Qinghan's back. Hum! The Tonggu saber shattered the void and cut through the mountains and rivers. Yi Qinghan's body drew an arc as the saber collided with the immortal sword. Although Yi Qinghan dodged the fatal blow, he was sent flying by the powerful force. Like a kite with a broken string, he smashed into the distance and left the Mount Jade Beast's back. Boom! Yi Qinghan rolled on the ground for dozens of meters. The Tonggu saber stabbed into the ground and drew flames. Whoosh! Schwerenfeng passed by the Mount Jade Beast. His sword chi was like a rainbow as it pierced towards Yi Qinghan again. Schwerenfeng's attack was enough to kill an early-stage mystic immortal expert. The Mount Jade Beast's reaction was a little slow. It chased after Yi Qinghan and its fangs tore through the mountains and rivers. It wanted to surround Yi Qinghan to rescue Yi Qinghan. Unfortunately, it was still too slow. Yi Qinghan focused his eyes in this thrilling moment. He stared at the immortal sword that was speeding towards him. He slashed his saber again with incomparable precision and struck the tip of the immortal sword. Boom! A powerful shockwave swept through the mountains and rivers. It was as if an atomic bomb had exploded. The visual impact was earth-shattering. Bang! Although Yi Qinghan's strength was great, he was sent flying again. The two unexpected attacks left him battered and exhausted. Chapter 2403. Chapter 9. There will be more in the afternoon, but how much depends on everyone. Boom! Yi Qinghan held his Tonggu saber and retreated several hundred steps, leaving a footprint with each step. His wrist was trembling. The difference was too great. It was an entire realm. Huff huff huff, dong dong dong. Yi Qinghan's breathing was rapid, and his heart was about to explode. He might be able to fight against a low-level mystic immortal, but he couldn't fight against a mid-level expert like Xuerenfeng. Roar! The Mount Jade Beast roared and swung its forelimbs at Xuerenfeng, causing the ground to tremble. It wanted to force Xuerenfeng back. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan kept moving, maintaining a safe distance as he prepared to join forces with the Mount Jade Beast. However, Xuerenfeng didn't give Yi Qinghan the chance. He chased after Yi Qinghan while dodging the Mount Jade Beast's attack. The battlefield outside the city was turned upside down. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan suffered several attacks. Although he was in a sorry state, he still managed to stabilize the situation. Even if he lost, he wouldn't die. Thud thud thud, Yi Qinghan was forced back several dozen meters again. He held his saber with both hands and stared coldly at Xuerenfeng. His footsteps changed and finally, his back was facing the Mount Jade Beast. Roar! The Mount Jade Beast rushed to Yi Qinghan's side in one step. Its forelimbs were prostrated, and it was in an attacking position. Its bloody mouth spewed out the smell of blood, and its fangs were terrifying. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan jumped onto the Mount Jade Beast's back and ordered coldly, "Cooperate with me and kill him." Roar! Whoosh! The Mount Jade Beast's four limbs stomped, and the mountains and rivers collapsed. It carried Yi Qinghan with it, and its huge forelimbs covered the sky as it viciously slapped at Xuerenfeng. Whoosh, whoosh, Yi Qinghan's long saber slashed out horizontally, and immortal patterns lit up the surroundings. In terms of visual impact, this battle actually surpassed the battle between the Widow Ju and Yao Zishan. After all, Yi Qinghan and the Mount Jade Beast were fighting to the death against Xuerenfeng, while Yao Zishan and the Widow Ju were fighting to the death. Boom boom boom. In a split second, the sky outside the city crumbled and the earth cracked. Shockwaves swept out for thousands of miles. However, the shockwaves attacking the city were blocked by a faintly discernible barrier. They had no effect at all. In the city's watchtower, Zhang Fan's face was expressionless. His hands were behind his back as he looked at the two battlefields outside the city. There was not the slightest fluctuation in his emotions. In his opinion, the two battles were like children playing house. However, Yi Qinghan's battle prowess still attracted his attention. It's indeed rare for a small spiritual body to be able to do this. However, it's a pity that such a talent actually gave up on his physical body at the spirit immortal realm. Zhang Fan was deep in thought. He snapped his fingers and said to Gao Sitten, "Give me all the information you have on that soul body." Gao Sitten replied before disappearing into the city. Gao Sitten was not an ordinary mystic immortal realm expert. He was an expert from Marquis Zunlong's army. His speed was extremely fast. After half an hour, he arrived in the city. He mobilized Jingfan Mountain's intelligence system and quickly gathered all the information on Yi Qinghan. In less than half an hour, Gao Sitten appeared on the watchtower with a message talisman in his hand. He said respectfully, "Lord Zhang, the information on this person's appearance in the undying immortal realm is all here. As for his situation in the small world, you will have to ask Sikong Tan Lang of Sikong City. However, I heard that this person has a deep grudge with Sikong Tanlang. Sikong Tanlang might not be willing to explain the grudge clearly. Zhang Fan nodded and crushed the message talisman. All the important things that Yi Qinghan had experienced in the undying immortal realm were all here. Zhang Fan frowned. A lot of the information was vague. For example, how he offended the East Emperor's bloodline, why he failed to meet Marquis Zunlong, why he gave up on going to the ancient Emperor Academy when he arrived at the Dragon City in the Center God Province. Without any concrete information, Zhang Fan did not know how to evaluate Yi Qinghan. However, he was certain that Yi Qinghan's combat strength was indeed terrifying. If he had a physical body, he would be able to quickly charge into the top 3 of the heaven rankings in the North God Province. The top 3 of the heaven rankings were true monsters. It was not a legend to rely on secret techniques and supreme treasures to cross realms to battle. It's a pity that Marquis Zunlong doesn't seem to like you. Otherwise, he would definitely meet you when you meet him. He loves talent. You have disappointed him. This means that you are in the wrong. Zhang Fan muttered to himself. He casually wiped away the talisman in his hand and looked over. However, Zhang Fan was still uncertain. If Yi Qinghan was really so weak, he would not have protected Qi Dongping today. Could there be a misunderstanding? Zhang Fan stroked his beard and stared at Yi Qinghan. He watched his crazy attacks and defenses. It was very barbaric and did not have the temperament of an expert. Zhang Fan thought for a moment and said to Gao Sitten, "Gao Sitten, I have an important task for you. Investigate Yi Qinghan's experiences in the Sikong Tanlang world. Also, visit the 9 Heaven Xian Immortal. She should know a bit. If he is not bad, I am willing to try to nurture him." Gao Sitten was stunned. Zhang Fan had never accepted a disciple in his life. He did not expect him to be interested in a soul body. More importantly, Yi Qinghan was someone who was abandoned by Ouyang Hua, Marquis Zunlong, and the Eastern Emperor Grand Exalt. Zhang Fan represented Jingfan Mountain. Was he not afraid of offending these 3 big shots? Sir, Marquis Zunlong. Gao Sitten still respected Marquis Zunlong, so he kindly reminded him. What kind of person is Marquis Zunlong? Why would he care about this little guy? Moreover, he did not investigate. He only heard a few words from Marquis Zunlong. Don't worry, if there is a problem with Yi Qinghan, I will not meddle in other people's business. Zhang Fan said indifferently. The battle lasted for 4 hours. Yi Qinghan's body was covered in blood. His face was ferocious and incomparably savage. He was fighting without any regard for his life. The Jade Mountain Beast was also injured. Schwerenfeng flew into a rage out of humiliation. He did not expect that killing a little ant would take so long. He even lost some of his strength. How could he not be angry? And if it was not for the Jade Mountain Beast, I would have crushed you. Boom. Schwerenfeng was furious. His sword pierced through the clouds and shot towards Yi Qinghan. His immortal technique erupted and the pressure of a Xian immortal enveloped the mountains and rivers. Roar. The Jade Mountain Beast roared, wanting to overturn the heavens. It waved its claws at the immortal sword to block the powerful attack for Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan attacked from the side. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's saber slashed through the sword energy and went straight for Schwerenfeng's body. Whoosh! Schwerenfeng's moves were as fast as lightning. Before the first sword energy dissipated, the second had already reached Yi Qinghan's saber. The energy swept out and shook Yi Qinghan off the back of the Jade Mountain Beast. Die. Whoosh! Schwerenfeng's body drew an arc in the air and circled around the Jade Mountain Beast to arrive in front of Yi Qinghan. Boom! Yi Qinghan's saber blocked in front of his chest. The immortal sword collided with the saber and the terrifying energy sent Yi Qinghan flying towards the main city. Bang! The barrier was only slightly distorted as the energy was absorbed. However, Yi Qinghan's body was sucked in by the barrier. Boom! Yi Qinghan's body rolled and landed dozens of meters away on the main road in the city. He spat out blood in a sorry state. Boom! The jade mountain beast's sharp claws struck Schwerenfeng's back. Poof! Schwerenfeng was sent flying and crashed into the city with Yi Qinghan. More than a dozen of Schwerenfeng's ribs were broken. The jade mountain beast's attack was not simple. It was fortunate that it did not kill him. Damn it! Schwerenfeng struggled to get up and raised his sword to pierce Yi Qinghan's soul. However, he seemed to have forgotten that he was already in the city. Chapter 2404. Free recommendation ticket, recommendation ticket, recommendation ticket. Important things need to be repeated thrice. Please donate your recommendation ticket to read. Schwerenfeng raised his sword and stabbed forward. The sword light was so cold that Yi Qinghan couldn't even open his eyes. Yi Qinghan's sense of danger was too strong. Just as Schwerenfeng stabbed forward, he gritted his teeth and endured the pain. He rolled on the ground and hurriedly dodged Schwerenfeng's attack. Die! Whoosh! Schwerenfeng chased after him relentlessly. His sword swept out and soon, some buildings were destroyed. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Yi Qinghan wanted to escape the city because the Mount Jade Beast was blocked by the barrier and couldn't enter. Whoosh whoosh! Yi Qinghan kept moving and dodging Schwerenfeng's pursuit. The aura of death had already enveloped his heart and he could be killed at any time. The difference between them was too big. Yi Qinghan. No one has ever been able to escape from the people I want to kill. Boom! Schwerenfeng's killing aura was so strong that his sword pierced through a house. He raised his sword and directly slashed between Yi Qinghan's legs. If this sword hit, Yi Qinghan would be split into two. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's legs slashed horizontally and the sword in his hand pressed down, blocking Schwerenfeng's powerful attack. His body was directly blasted into the sky and he completely lost control. Schwerenfeng sneered and soared into the sky. His sword pierced through the clouds, wanting to kill Yi Qinghan. His sword chi was like a rainbow. Bang! Just when everyone thought that Yi Qinghan would be pierced through, the sword in Schwerenfeng's hand actually broke without any warning. A mid-tier mystic immortal-grade immortal sword broke apart without any struggle. At this moment, Schwerenfeng was stunned. Before he could even react, he lost control of his body. He even lost control of the profound laws around him. His body smashed towards the ground like a meteor. Zhang Fan had his hands behind his back. With just a glance, he controlled the life and death of Schwerenfeng, a mid-tier mystic immortal expert. In front of him, Schwerenfeng couldn't even control his immortal spiritual energy and was like an ant. Whoosh! Zhang Fan's eyes shone with a cold light. With a thought, Schwerenfeng's body twisted and he was directly suppressed under the observation tower. He knelt under the observation tower outside the city, unable to move at all. Schwerenfeng, I've warned you. What do you think Jingfan Mountain's main city is? Do you think you can attack and destroy as you please? A majestic voice crushed Schwerenfeng's spirit and will. He spat out blood and lay on the ground, terrified. My lord, this lowly one accidentally entered the main city. Please spare my life. Schwerenfeng cried out in fear. Bang! Yi Qinghan also fell to the bottom of the observation deck. He fell flat on his back and saw stars. Roar! The Mount Jade Beast charged towards the watchtower, baring its fangs as it attacked the faint barrier. Bang! Zhang Fan waved his hand and slapped down. A pair of gigantic palms descended from the sky, suppressing the Mount Jade Beast to the ground. The Mount Jade Beast's strength was actually unable to withstand a casual slap from him. Evil creature, you still dare to be impudent in front of me? Zhang Fan coldly said. Yi Qinghan struggled to sit up. His entire body shivered. He was just half a step away from death. If Zhang Fan still didn't dare to interfere, then he would definitely die. "Thank you, Lord Zhang, for saving my life." Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and endured the pain as he stood up and said respectfully. Zhang Fan's majestic face stared at Yi Qinghan and said quietly, "Raise your head." Yi Qinghan didn't dare to disobey. He raised his head and looked straight into Zhang Fan's eyes. He had never seen such pressure before. However, his gaze was also very clear. No matter what happened, he had a clear conscience. The fight in the city this time had nothing to do with him. It was Xuerenfeng who had forced him in. Zhang Fan looked at Yi Qinghan's eyes with incomparably clear eyes. There were no evil thoughts in them, and he wasn't like the others who were filled with strong utilitarianism. He didn't understand why the Eastern Imperial Grand Exalt wanted to interfere with Yi Qinghan's future, cutting off his path to visit Marquis Zun Long and erasing his qualifications to enter the ancient Emperor Academy. Could it be just because Yi Qinghan was a spiritual body that wanted to taint the little princess of the Eastern Imperial Immortal? All of this was just speculation. Zhang Fan was a cautious person. He needed evidence before evaluating a person. Therefore, he hadn't evaluated Yi Qinghan yet. Stand aside. You are also responsible for today's matter. However, the main responsibility lies with Xuerenfeng. Zhang Fan said coldly, "Xuerenfeng, you destroyed 4 houses and injured 12 people. If I didn't act in time, these people would have become corpses. No matter how strong your 9 kills sect is, you shouldn't be so impudent in Jingfan Mountain." "Lord!" This lowly one was confused by anger and accidentally entered the city. "Please give me a chance to compensate," Xuerenfeng said in fear. Zhang Fan glanced at the ruins and said coldly, 80 million celestial coins or your life. Choose one. Xuerenfeng didn't manage to kill Yi Qinghan with a few moves. Instead, he had to pay 80 million celestial coins. This wasn't a small amount. Even if Xuerenfeng was a mid-stage Xian immortal expert, he still felt the pinch. However, if he didn't pay, he would lose his life. Zhang Fan was about to step into the golden immortal realm, so the 9 kills sect had to give him face. This lowly one is willing to compensate, Xuerenfeng immediately said. After saying that, Xuerenfeng immediately took out an immortal ring and handed over 80 million celestial coins. Actually, it was just a few houses and a dozen injured people. There was no need for 80 million celestial coins. 8 million celestial coins was more than enough. At this moment, Xuerenfeng's heart was bleeding. What? Zhang Fan didn't even look at Xuerenfeng and directly took the immortal ring. His eyes were still staring outside the city. Outside the city, Yao Zishan had been moving around. He didn't dare to fight the widow Ju head-on. Although he was gradually at a disadvantage, he was still able to protect himself. Yi Qinghan, although the main responsibility doesn't lie with you, it was because of you that these injured people were implicated. Even Yao Zishan was implicated. You are fined 8 million celestial coins, Zhang Fan said coldly. Although Xuerenfeng was fined 80 million celestial coins, Yi Qinghan also had to pay a certain price. Zhang Fan seemed to be telling Xuerenfeng that he wasn't biased towards Yi Qinghan. However, in reality, he was telling the 9 kills sect that he had dealt with this matter fairly and wasn't biased. He wasn't purposely making things difficult for Xuerenfeng. Yi Qinghan swallowed his anger and clenched his fists. Now that he was under someone else's roof, he had no choice but to lower his head. 8 million celestial coins was nothing to him. This junior respects Lord Zhang's wishes. However, I don't have any celestial coins on me right now. I hope that you can use mid-grade Mystic Mother instead. Yi Qinghan bowed and said. Zhang Fan nodded and didn't make things difficult for him. Yi Qinghan took out 8 pieces of mid-grade Mystic Mother Immortal Steel. In the blink of an eye, he was scared away by Zhang Fan. Xuerenfeng was still rejoicing in Yi Qinghan's misfortune. However, Zhang Fan's cold gaze made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Schwerin Feng, scram. You are not allowed to step into Jingfan Mountain's territory for 1,000 years. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. Zhang Fan warned coldly. Schwerin Feng sucked in a breath of cold air. However, he didn't dare to disobey. He could only nod like a chick pecking at rice. Then, he quickly left Jingfan Mountain's main city. At this moment, the situation of the battle outside the city changed. Yao Zishan, who was originally in control of the situation, suddenly lost control. His clothes were cut by the widow Ju's blade. Blood dyed his celestial dress red. However, the injury wasn't serious. Boom! Zhang Fan slapped across the air and sent the widow Ju flying. He waved his hand and brought Yao Zishan back to the watchtower. He said indifferently, "You are too stubborn. If you want the immortal hairpin, just say it. There's no need to use such methods." Chapter 2405. Yao Zishan was taken back to the watchtower. A sly glint flashed across his eyes, but it was very hidden. Yi Qinghan did not see it. Everything was still under Yao Zishan's control. Widow Ju was sent flying, and he only suffered superficial injuries. Yi Qinghan owed him a big favor. Legend has it that the Xian fairy hairpin given by a man is the strongest. This is the wish of the Xian fairy. As long as a man with feelings bathes in the hairpin, he can defend against an expert like you. Yao Zishan stuck out his tongue and said mischievously. Sai Zhang Fan sighed. With a wave of his hand, immortal light shot out in all directions, enveloping Yao Zishan and wiping away her superficial injuries. Yi Qinghan did not see the battle between Yao Zishan and widow Ju clearly. He felt a little apologetic. But at that moment, widow Ju was flustered and exasperated. She rushed over from afar and roared, "Elder Zhang, as a senior, don't you find it embarrassing to be so unfair?" Zhang Fan shook his head and said, "Sect Master Ju, you are also a senior to Yao Zishan. But didn't you still attack?" Widow Ju asked unwillingly. Yao Zishan is a mid-stage mystic immortal. She is the goddaughter of Golden Immortal Senior Jing Fan. She is of the same generation as me. How am I a senior? She is a scheming B***tch. She was clearly at ease earlier, but she took the initiative to throw herself at my scimitar. This B***tch just wants Yi Qinghan to thank her and ask for the hairpin. Don't think that I don't know the legend of the hairpin. This woman can deceive you silly men, but she is far from being good at deceiving women. Yao Zishan looked pitiful. She was not as scheming as widow Ju said. Yi Qinghan looked at Yao Zishan. He did not see the truth, so he could not be sure if widow Ju was right or wrong. But he also suspected Yao Zishan's intentions. Fairy Yao is not the kind of person you say she is. Even if I did give her the hairpin, she would not accept it, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Yi Qinghan said faintly. Nominally, he was helping Yao Zishan, but in reality, he was letting Yao Zishan block his own escape route. Yao Zishan's expression changed slightly. If he didn't acknowledge Yi Qinghan's words, it would be equivalent to acknowledging widow Ju's words. If he accepted the immortal hairpin, wouldn't he be telling the world that he, Yao Zishan, was a scheming B***tch? Yao Zishan hesitated, but Zhang Fan said directly, "That's right. Although my Jingfan Mountain isn't rich, we won't stoop so low for an immortal hairpin that's worth a few 100 million. Sect Master Ju, don't use the heart of a villain to steal the heart of a gentleman." Widow Ju sneered. She looked at Yao Zishan's gloomy expression and said disdainfully, "Look at Yao Zishan's gloomy face. Does he dare to admit it?" The demon prince had no way to retreat, so he snorted and said, "I helped fellow Taoist Yi only because I approve of this person. I also don't want the immortal hairpin to fall into the hands of a venomous woman. Don't worry, I won't take this immortal hairpin." "Humph. You don't mean what you say." Widow Ju snorted and said to Yi Qinghan, "Yi Qinghan, don't fail miserably. It's best if you don't provoke this woman. Otherwise, you won't die at the hands of the 9 Kills sect. That's all I have to say. I'll take my leave now. We'll meet again in the future. Whoosh, Widow Ju's figure flashed and disappeared into the night. A huge battle had ended. Zhang Fan distributed all the 80 million immortal coins to the victims of this battle. Then, he said to Yi Qinghan and Yao Zishan, "Come with me." Whoosh, Zhang Fan waved his hand and swept the 2 of them away. A moment later, at the Jingfan Mountain Auction House, Zhang Fan left Yao Zishan in the auction house, and then led Yi Qinghan into the Brahma Supreme Dao Hall. The Dao Hall was majestic and incomparably majestic. The huge square exuded a dense heavenly might. Endless profound immortal techniques surged. If a mystic immortal cultivated here, it would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. Whoosh! Zhang Fan waved his hand and a stone table and a few chairs appeared in the Dao Hall. He slowly sat down and said, "Sit down." Yi Qinghan did not know why Zhang Fan wanted to meet him alone. He was still very nervous. After all, Zhang Fan was equivalent to a golden immortal big shot. A figure from the 2nd level of the undying, immortal realm could kill him with a wave of his hand. Huff, huff, huff! Yi Qinghan breathed out a few mouthfuls of turbid air and sat cross-legged opposite Zhang Fan. He looked at Zhang Fan respectfully and quietly waited for him to speak. "Tell me about your feud with Sikong Tanlang. Why did you become enemies with the East Clan? Why did you come to the Northern Divine Region on the way to the Ancient Emperor Academy?" Zhang Fan took out a pot of tea and 2 cups and casually threw one to Yi Qinghan. The teapot automatically floated in the air and poured water. The fragrance of the tea was definitely immortal grade. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He did not expect the Jingfan Mountain's resident elder to be interested in his matters. "Senior." Yi Qinghan did not know how to explain this long process. He held the teacup with both hands. His fingertips trembled as he continuously tapped the teacup. Zhang Fan took a sip of the tea and said coldly, "I'm very busy. Long story short." Yi Qinghan bitterly smiled and said, "Senior, there's a problem with Sikong Tanlang's cultivation method. He used the geniuses in his world to modify his immortal technique. He kept pushing and destroying civilizations. He was perverted, and before his cultivation method was fixed, he would not allow anyone to become an undying spirit immortal. When it came to my civilization, I sensed the problem in advance. Hence, he lost control of his Tanlang world and used the name of the world's consciousness to mobilize everyone to attack me and my sect. In the end, my sect had the advantage, but many of my brothers and sisters died. I wanted revenge, so he naturally did not want me to live." Zhang Fan looked at Yi Qinghan's eyes. His powerful soul sense could sense Yi Qinghan's emotions. If Yi Qinghan was lying, he would definitely be able to sense it. "Continue, tell me about your feud with the East Clan," Zhang Fan said coldly. The moment he heard the words East Clan, Yi Qinghan's heart sank. He directly crushed the wine cup in his hand. "I escaped from Sikong City to the Western God Continent. Because I was chased by people from the ultimate peak mountain, I panicked and ran into Immortal Donghuang's carriage. Immortal Donghuang saved me, and her mission was to bring the ancestral Eastern Emperor Immortal Bell back to the East Clan. There was a mysterious power that wanted to seize the Eastern Emperor Immortal Bell, but I saw through it. I got Immortal Donghuang to hire an initial stage Xian, Immortal Stage Expert, to protect the carriage. However, that mysterious power had an additional initial stage Xian, Immortal Stage Expert. I used the 3 immortal treasures in Immortal Donghuang's hands as the foundation to block the final Xian, Immortal Stage Expert." Yi Qinghan continued. Zhang Fan waved his hand and interrupted Yi Qinghan's words. He asked, "Who is that Xian, Immortal Stage Expert in the Mercenary Hall?" Yi Qinghan immediately replied, "The Hall Master of the Mercenary Hall in the Western God Continent's Peach Blossom City, Situ Hao." Zhang Fan nodded and said, continue, Yi Qinghan didn't hide anything and told Zhang Fan about the feud between him and the East Clan. These matters could be investigated. As for why he left the Dragon City and gave up on going to the Ancient Emperor Academy, he also told Zhang Fan. Zhang Fan went silent for a while before he waved his hand and said, "I will investigate what you said. Without my permission, you are not allowed to leave the Jingfan Mountain. Otherwise, even without the 9 Kills Sect and Ultimate Peak Mountain, this seat will personally kill you. Go back now, I will look for you at the Li Clan's Immortal Treasure Shop." Yi Qinghan was a little surprised. He didn't know what Zhang Fan wanted to do, but since Zhang Fan said so, he really didn't dare to leave the Jingfan Mountain. Junior will take his leave. Yi Qinghan stood up and respectfully left. Chapter 2406. Yi Qinghan walked alone on the street. There was no one around as everything was asleep. Only a few faint lights flickered on both sides of the street, sometimes bright and sometimes dark. Patrol teams of 10 shuttled through the main road. The main city was probably the safest at night. Every main road had a mystic immortal guarding it. Yi Qinghan held the Tonggu saber as he walked forward slowly. As he breathed in the fresh spiritual energy of the night, his muddled mind finally cleared up. He began to think about Zhang Fan's intentions. He asked about my past, so he will definitely send someone to investigate. Could it be that he wants to nurture me? Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. If Zhang Fan did not want to nurture him, there was no need for him to care about his past. However, this was just a guess. Yi Qinghan was not confident. He sighed softly. He felt that he was not outstanding enough to make a half-step golden immortal take an interest in him and take the initiative to nurture him. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan increased his speed and sped along the main road. He returned to the Li family's Immortal Treasure Shop when the sky gradually brightened. At this moment, the Immortal Treasure Shop was ready to open. Li Zhen did not sleep well that night because Yi Qinghan had not returned. However, the Mount Jade Beast had returned. However, its originally strong limbs had become weak and even walking was very difficult. Li Zhen paced back and forth in front of the door. He immediately went up to Yi Qinghan when he saw him. "Nephew, where have you been?" Li Zhen asked anxiously. Yi Qinghan was slightly startled when he saw Li Zhen's anxious look. He did not expect him to be so concerned about him. It was a little unusual. "Uncle Li, I went to Jingfan Mountain. I'm fine now. Why are you looking for me?" Yi Qinghan's expression was slightly tired. Even his voice had become hoarse. He had escaped death this night. If not for Zhang Fan, he would have been completely lying down today. Oh, it's nothing serious. I just know that you fought with Xuerenfeng outside the city. I'm still very worried. Li Zhen immediately replied. Yi Qinghan squeezed out a smile and whispered, "Thank you for your concern, Uncle Li. I'm fine." Li Zhen exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and said in relief, "It's good that you're all right. It's already very fortunate that a mid-tier heaven immortal like you managed to survive after blocking so many attacks from Xuerenfeng. Your strength should be able to rank in the top 10 of the Northern Divine Region's heaven list." Yi Qinghan shook his head and said calmly, "That's just a false reputation. There's no need to care about it. Nephew has a good attitude, but I have other things to tell you today. You said that you still have more than 2,000 pieces of mid-grade Mystic Mother Immortal Steel. I helped you sell them at a very fair price. Moreover, I promised them that I would buy them all at market price. The other party had already paid half of the deposit. I made a decision without your consent. You won't blame me, right?" Li Zhen said with some embarrassment. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He did not intend to sell all of the Mystic Mother Immortal Steel, but now that he had no money on him and Li Zhen had promised someone else, it would not be good if he did not sell them. "Alright, thank you, Uncle Li. I still have 2,400 pieces left. According to the market price, that's 4 billion. I won't mistreat Uncle Li. Take 200 million and put the rest into my card. Yi Qinghan took out his immortal ring and handed over all the mid-grade items to Li Zhen. Li Zhen was very straightforward and transferred the 1 billion deposit to Yi Qinghan's gold card. There's one more thing. I've contacted the various major forces. I've prepared most of the materials that you're looking for. I also have substitutes for some of the materials that I couldn't find. As for your divine bird, it has already eaten the form transformation pill. It should be able to transform in 3 months and reconstruct its body in half a year. At this moment, Li Zhen was very happy. What he was most worried about was that something would happen to Yi Qinghan. He would not be able to get so much mystic mother immortal steel to sell to others in a short time. After all, the other party had already paid the deposit. If he could not get the goods, he would suffer a huge loss. Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. This was good news. Uncle Li, thank you for your help during this time. There are many things that this junior does not understand. I hope that Uncle Li will not be stingy with his guidance. Yi Qinghan said honestly. Li Zhen chuckled and said, Nephew is too polite. You've helped me earn a lot during this period of time. Hee, Uncle Li owes you such a big favor. If I don't do something for you, I'll feel weird. Yi Qinghan raised the corner of his mouth and smiled. Li Zhen was really a person with a good temperament. Even if he could not become a trustworthy elder, at least cooperation was not a problem. These are the resources that I have prepared for the divine bird. Don't leave the immortal treasure shop during this time. The first thing is safety. The second thing is that the divine bird needs you. Li Zhen quickly handed over all the materials to Yi Qinghan and reminded him in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan nodded and quickly stepped into the immortal treasure shop's backyard. In the backyard's garden, the Mount Jade beast was lying on the ground weakly. It seemed that Zhang Fan's palm strike had caused quite a bit of damage to it. It would not be able to recover in a short time. Seeing the Mount Jade beast's reaction, Yi Qinghan finally understood how strong Zhang Fan was. If he could really receive Zhang Fan's nurturing, his strength would take a qualitative leap. Gotcha! Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and casually patted the Mount Jade beast's head. He whispered, It's safe now. I will get someone to provide you with food to replenish your blood. I will be going into seclusion for a while. If there's nothing, do not leave the backyard. Roar! The Mount Jade beast let out a low roar and crawled on the ground. It did not even have the strength to stand up. Its skin did not suffer any damage, but its internal life order was nearly destroyed by Zhang Fan. This was the result of him being merciful. Otherwise, that palm strike would have completely killed it. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan got up and entered the room. The room was filled with immortal aura and nomological order. The mystical immortal patterns were extremely abstruse. Even Yi Qinghan did not understand these things, but the divine bird did. It was all thanks to that bracelet. Little Fox Immortal transformed into her true form and lay on the table. She looked at the divine bird with reverence, and did not dare to make any strange movements. At this moment, the divine bird was already condensing into a human form. The child's figure was almost corporeal. The bracelet was emitting an immortal glow. The mystical immortal patterns in the room were all released by the bracelet. This item was definitely not ordinary. Whoosh! Mystical immortal patterns were emitted from the divine bird's body. Every time a mystical immortal pattern was emitted, the divine bird's human form would become more realistic. However, this was only the initial stage of the transformation. The reconstruction of the golden body in the later stages was the most crucial. A person's physical body determined their potential. Yi Qinghan sat down and looked at the divine bird with anticipation. The divine bird was different from him. This fellow had soared from the spirit immortal state all the way to the heaven immortal state. It had a physical body. If the divine bird had a perfect physical body, He was confident that he could turn the divine bird into an invincible existence. Divine bird, don't disappoint me. How many people rolled their eyes at me along the way? How many people's humiliation is still vivid in my mind? If I don't have a chance to find them, I will have to rely on you. Yi Qinghan gritted his teeth and muttered to himself. Whoosh, the divine bird's true form disappeared and transformed into a human. It looked like a 6 or 7-year-old child. It was very young and was about a meter tall. However, the aura on its body was very powerful. The bracelet only held onto its arm as though it was one with it. Chapter 2407. The divine bird's human form was not bad. At least it was not as exaggerated as a 3 or 4-year-old. It was not good to be too young. Yi Qinghan could accept this form. If it was trained, the divine bird still had great potential. Huff huff, Yi Qinghan breathed out a few mouthfuls of turbid air. He waited for the divine bird to wake up. Then he would teach it how to refine its body and raise it to its strongest state. Whoosh! The bracelet emitted a mysterious light. It actually took the initiative to help the divine bird reconstruct its body. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He quickly took out all the materials he had prepared and placed them on the bed. Whoosh! Whoosh! The divine bird raised its hands unconsciously. The immortal treasure materials flew into the air. Under the mysterious immortal patterns on the bracelet, they were directly broken down and then swallowed into its body at a very fast speed. Damn! How did this bracelet turn into something? Why do I feel that it has a soul and consciousness? Yi Qinghan took a few steps back and said in disbelief. Little Fox Immortal looked at the divine bird and the bracelet in his hand in horror. She turned into a human and came to Yi Qinghan's side. She whispered, Master, I feel that this bracelet is a person. In the few days that you were not around, the bracelet was simply heaven-defying. It could even control the divine bird's cultivation. Gulp, Yi Qinghan swallowed his saliva. No one would believe that he was not careful. This thing was too strange. He was naturally afraid that the divine bird would be changed or even devoured. Little Fox Immortal and Yi Qinghan stared at the divine bird's transformation and looked at each other. Why does it look more and more like you, Master? Little Fox Immortal said in surprise. Yi Qinghan scratched his head. He felt that this fellow was more like his son than Yi Qingtian. He could tell that the divine bird was not affected by the bracelet. At least his influence on the divine bird was far greater than this unknown bracelet. The immortal treasure materials prepared by Li Zhen were quickly absorbed by the divine bird. The bracelet could break them down directly. Yi Qinghan and Little Fox Immortal were dumbfounded. At this moment, the divine bird's body was radiating golden light in all directions. It was sparkling and translucent, incomparably round and full of profound immortal techniques. Such a body was already close to perfection. The powerful immortal runes were like a huge net, forming a defensive barrier. The current divine bird itself was a defensive immortal artifact. That gem definitely has a soul, and a powerful one at that. If I'm not wrong, it should be a gem that evolved from the soul of a gold immortal in order to escape after it was severely injured. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself, feeling a little cautious. A gold immortal, what kind of existence was that? Zhang Fan was already so terrifying, so how could a golden immortal not be terrifying? Yi Qinghan was no longer of any use to the divine bird. Phew! Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and waited silently at the door. The bracelet emitted a weak soul fluctuation, and the terrifying pressure was restrained. It couldn't even spread out of the room. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. The divine bird was now even more powerful, but its realm remained at the mid-stage of the immortal heaven-immortal realm. There were no signs of a breakthrough. The endless energy it absorbed was all used to refine its body. The perfect golden body had even surpassed Yi Qinghan's perfect divine body, becoming a perfect immortal body. All the immortal treasure materials had been absorbed into waste, but the bracelet still didn't seem to be satisfied. Yi Qinghan tried to take out the few remaining mid-grade mystic mother pieces, but the bracelet didn't break them down. Maybe it couldn't do it, or maybe it was too lazy to break them down. Whoosh! The divine bird opened its eyes, and a terrifying light shot out from its eyes. It was like an invincible supreme being. Ha ha ha, boss, am I handsome? Can I attract countless beauties? The divine bird's first sentence was so wretched. Cough cough, Yi Qinghan coughed dryly. This sentence confirmed that the divine bird hadn't changed, and had reached a new level of wretchedness. I feel like I can destroy your soul with one punch. The divine bird stood up arrogantly and said. Yi Qinghan snorted and said, You can try. Hee hee, boss, I'm just joking with you. I'm still counting on you to bring me to the immortal world. The divine bird grinned. Little Fox Immortal looked at the divine bird with disdain and mocked. Wretched bird, your wings have hardened. You actually dare to tease your master. The divine bird glared at her and said unhappily, Don't call me a wretched bird in the future. I'm already a human now, a true shape-shifting expert, the future lord of the immortal world. I have to raise my prestige from a young age. Otherwise, who would trust me in the future? Lord of the immortal world? I think you're more like the king of wretchedness. You're so wretched at such a young age, what will happen when you grow up? Little Fox Immortal mocked. The divine bird curled its lips, and a look of disdain appeared on its cute face. It waved its hand and said, I won't lower myself to a woman's level. I'm the future emperor. It's beneath me to lower myself to your level. In the future, you can call me Supreme Yi or Immortal Master Yi. Yi Qinghan shrugged and said lightly, I advise you to put on your clothes before you show off. The divine bird then realized that it was naked. It covered its little bird with both hands and shouted, You two hooligans! You didn't even warn me. Especially you, Little Fox Immortal. You're a woman, aren't you embarrassed to stare at me? TSK. Little Fox Immortal looked at the little bird in disdain and mocked, You've never seen master. You can only be called a little bug. What's there to look at? Cough cough, Yi Qinghan smiled awkwardly and changed the topic. He casually threw a piece of clothing to the divine bird and said, Wrap yourself up first. I don't have clothes for your size, and I didn't have time to prepare. Let's go buy some decent clothes. Yi Qinghan was almost 2 meters tall. His clothes could wrap a few divine birds in their human forms. The divine bird wore it and tied a few knots. It looked very funny. The divine bird curled its lips and looked at the mirror. It said helplessly, It's better than being wrapped in a bedsheet. Let's go buy some immortal clothes and let all the women in the world see me. It would be best if I could attract a princess. Yi Qinghan had already given in to the divine bird. He turned and left. The divine bird and Little Fox Immortal quickly followed. They had not left the main city ever since they entered. They were obviously very curious about the main city. The divine bird called itself Supreme Yi and walked beside Yi Qinghan arrogantly. Its eyes were almost staring into the sky, afraid that it would not attract the attention of the beauties. Hey, I've transformed. Do you know what this Supreme's true form is? Hey, beautiful, am I handsome? TSK. Demon, why don't you show yourself? The divine bird walked on the official road. It was simply a chatterbox. When it saw beauties, it would show off. When it saw experts who had transformed, it would scold them angrily. The other party was so scared that they took a few steps back. When they saw the divine bird's despicable appearance, they almost went berserk. Yi Qinghan covered his forehead and said angrily, Can you shut up? The divine bird Supreme Yi stretched out its arms and kicked its legs. It grinned and said, Not for now. Let me be arrogant for a few more days. F***ck. Yi Qinghan and Little Fox Immortal cursed at the same time. A group of people looked at Yi Qinghan and the divine bird as if they were looking at idiots. When did such a weirdo appear in the main city? Chapter 2408. I'm not feeling well, so I'm a little busy. But I'll definitely give you the promised 5 chapters. On the main road, Yi Qinghan wanted nothing more than to cover his face and stay away from the divine bird. This fellow was so despicable that even he could not stand it any more. Grabbing breasts, slapping buttocks, there was nothing that the great supreme Yi could not do. The female cultivators couldn't be bothered to argue with the divine bird. After all, the divine bird looked like it was only 6 or 7 years old. It looked at the female cultivators with an innocent expression and then looked at Yi Qinghan, causing the trouble to fall onto Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan was scolded so badly that his veins were bulging. He really wanted to beat the divine bird up. Yi Qinghan had no choice but to drag the divine bird into a shop specializing in immortal clothing. He picked out a few sets for it, then dragged it back to the Li family's immortal treasure shop. In the backyard, Yi Qinghan was speechless. He said angrily, "Tch, don't think that I can't bear to hit you." The divine bird pursed its lips and asked unhappily, "You're the only one who's allowed to have a harem, but I'm not allowed to pick up girls? Are you King picking up girls? You're acting like a hooligan," Yi Qinghan roared. "This is called being unruly. If you cast a net everywhere, there will be flowers. There are so many girls, I don't believe that none of them like me," the divine bird retorted, not to be outdone. Oh, Yi Qinghan slapped his head helplessly and sat on a chair in the backyard. He no longer wanted to argue with the divine bird. "Immortal Master Yi, tell me, what's up with the bracelet on your hand?" Yi Qinghan asked helplessly. The divine bird raised its little hand proudly and looked at the bracelet. "I don't know the details, but boss, this fellow has a soul and memories. It can even help me cultivate." Yi Qinghan's expression turned serious. He reminded in a low voice, "Be careful, it might kill its master." No, it's very friendly," the divine bird said proudly. Yi Qinghan shook his head. He would always be wary of the unknown, especially this bracelet. No one else could touch it except for the divine bird. It was very strange in and of itself. "Can you communicate with it?" Yi Qinghan asked in a serious tone. The divine bird pursed its lips and shrugged. It made a helpless expression and said, "Not yet, but it seems to be recovering. I believe that it will be able to communicate with me soon." Buzz! Yi Qinghan's bracelet suddenly lit up and 7-colored immortal light filled the air. In that instant, Yi Qinghan felt as though he had seen an ancient immortal bird. It looked a bit like a 7-colored divine phoenix, its wings fluttering in the wind. However, it was too fast and disappeared in the blink of an eye. It was like an illusion. It was very unreal. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but sit up straight. He looked at Little Fox Immortal and Divine Bird and asked, "Did you see that just now?" The divine bird nodded like a chick pecking at rice. F***ck. "My goddess! Divine Phoenix! I saw a real immortal grade divine phoenix." The divine bird was very excited and trembled all over. Yi Qinghan suddenly realized why the bracelet would attack anyone but the divine bird. It turned out that there was an immortal grade divine phoenix hidden here. The divine bird had the bloodline of the divine phoenix. Although it was not very high level, it was indeed of the same bloodline. Plop! Little Fox Immortal's reaction seemed to be a little slow. Her body trembled and then her body went limp and knelt on the ground. There was a suppression of bloodline between animals. Obviously, this immortal grade divine phoenix's rank must be very high. It was so high that Little Fox Immortal didn't even have the ability to look at it. A phoenix seeking a phoenix. Everything can be explained now. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. The divine phoenix and the divine bird were of the same origin. Moreover, it was a phoenix seeking a phoenix relationship. The 7-colored divine phoenix should not bite the divine bird. The bracelet shone again and let out a phoenix cry. It was as if the Emperor had descended to the 9 heavens. A powerful aura supported the divine bird and sent Yi Qinghan flying. Even his qi and blood froze. Pfft, Yi Qinghan's qi and blood froze. He felt something sweet in his throat and immediately spat out a mouthful of essence blood. Bang! Yi Qinghan fell to the corner of the backyard and half knelt on the ground, panting heavily. Prepare a large number of golden immortal grade immortal fruits for me. The more the better. A soul fluctuation spread out. That kind of willpower was not something that could be resisted. It was the willpower of the 7-colored divine phoenix. It had awakened but soon fell into a deep sleep again. It could only rely on its instincts. Dong dong dong. Yi Qinghan's heart was about to explode. His fingertips were trembling uncontrollably. He looked at the divine bird that had fallen into a daze and didn't dare to approach it. Little Fox Immortal was already unconscious. She couldn't withstand the suppression of the 7-colored divine phoenix's bloodline. A golden immortal grade immortal fruit was not something that an ordinary person could buy. Even if one had the money, they might not be able to buy it. The key was that not many people could afford it. One fruit cost over 100 million immortal coins. Mystic Immortal Realm experts were unable to absorb the energy within the immortal fruit, and their Mystic Immortal Realm bodies might not be able to withstand the golden immortal grade immortal fruit. Even if they could, no one would squander 100 million immortal coins. Yi Qinghan stared at the divine bird for a moment. After a long time, he woke up and said in a daze, "I think I heard my goddess tell me to prepare a large number of golden immortal grade immortal fruits for her." Yi Qinghan nodded and said, "Yes, a large number of golden immortal grade immortal fruits. I can't afford too many of them. Even if I can, once I buy them in large quantities, even a fool will suspect us. For the goddess, for lifelong happiness, I'll do it. Let's explore the danger zone and look for golden immortal grade immortal fruits," the divine bird said solemnly. Yi Qinghan groaned as he recalled Zhang Fan's warning. For a moment, he didn't know what to do. "I'll go ask Jingfan Mountain's elder Zhang Fan. I hope he'll allow me to leave the main city for a period of time." Yi Qinghan slowly stood up and put away the unconscious little fox immortal as he prepared to leave. The divine bird immediately called out, "Boss, I'll go too." Yi Qinghan shook his head and said in a deep voice, "You can't go. You don't understand Zhang Fan's strength. He'll definitely notice that your bracelet is not ordinary. If he has any ill intentions, your goddess will be dead." The goddess had become the divine bird's weakness. It immediately shrunk its head and said unwillingly, "All right then, I'll wait for you here." Yi Qinghan increased his speed and headed straight for Jingfan Mountain. During the day, Jingfan Mountain was in auction mode. Yi Qinghan came to the auction and waited for a long time. He managed to bid for a Mystic Immortal Grade Attack Type Immortal Technique. The 9/chain saber was profound. It had a total of 13 saber technique. Together with the Tonggu saber, its power was multiplied. After the auction ended, everyone else left. Only Yi Qinghan stood there, waiting for Zhang Fan to summon him. As expected, a Mystic Immortal Grade guard walked over and said to Yi Qinghan, "Elder Zhang wants to see you. Follow me." In the Brahma Sovereign Dao rite, Zhang Fan was currently carving an ornament. The ornament was filled with his understanding of the profound mysteries of the Tao. Just this ornament alone was worth several 100 million. However, Zhang Fan could not take this item out to auction because it involved his cultivation method. "Why are you looking for me?" Zhang Fan didn't even turn his head as he focused on carving the dragon sculpture in his hand. "Senior, I want to leave the main city for a period of time," Yi Qinghan bowed and requested. Zhang Fan rejected without hesitation. "No, you're not allowed to go anywhere before I investigate thoroughly. Also, the people from the Ultimate Peak Mountain and the 9 Kills sect are eyeing us covetously. Leaving now is no different from courting death." Yi Qinghan laughed bitterly and said, Senior, Junior can't stay in the main city forever. Moreover, I have a very important matter to attend to. I will return in at most 10 years. What can be more important than your own life? If I ask you to stay, then stay here peacefully. Don't look for trouble. Zhang Fan put down the carving knife in his hand and stared at Yi Qinghan as he said coldly. Chapter 2409. In the face of Zhang Fan's firm attitude, Yi Qinghan did not strongly object, but he still expressed his attitude. Zhang Fan was slightly impatient and asked, Why are you in such a hurry to leave the city? Yi Qinghan said truthfully, I want to go out and gather some necessary immortal treasures and resources. Senior, please allow me to leave the city. Moreover, I didn't commit any crime, so why are you trapping me in the city? The Dao Hall fell into silence as Zhang Fan continued to carve the dragon-shaped accessory. It was gradually taking shape, and every stroke was extremely precise and perfect. It emitted a dense immortal aura and profoundness. Ordinary people really didn't have the qualifications to see him carve, but since Zhang Fan allowed him to see it, it meant that he approved of it. Zhang Fan didn't say anything and Yi Qinghan didn't dare to leave casually. He could only wait silently as he watched Zhang Fan's carving technique. It seemed like the carving technique was also a Dao art, and the level of exquisiteness far surpassed the 9/chain blade's profoundness that he bought. Yi Qinghan watched in a daze. Zhang Fan continued to carve silently, allowing Yi Qinghan to figure out his own carving technique and comprehend this blade technique. After a long time, the dragon-shaped accessory took shape. It was only the size of a fist, but the carving technique was extremely beautiful and fine. Even the dragon scales could be clearly seen. An ordinary piece of wood was turned into a defensive immortal treasure after being carved. It contained supreme profoundness and was priceless. Hua! Zhang Fan casually threw the dragon-shaped accessory to Yi Qinghan and slowly got up to take some information from the table before throwing it to Yi Qinghan. Take a look for yourself. How many lives do you have to leave Jingfan Mountain's main city alive? Zhang Fan said indifferently. Yi Qinghan received the information and carefully read through it. His expression was slightly ugly. Old Freak Diyao is the human form of the ancient Diyao. His hearing is abnormal, and he can distinguish objects by hearing. He's the world's #1 tracking expert. He's waiting for you outside the main city. Let's not talk about his combat strength first. Let's talk about the large number of experts he's mobilized from the End Peak Mountain. There are 24 Mystic Immortals, 8 mid-stage experts, 1 high-level Mystic Immortal, and the rest are early-stage Mystic Immortals. There's also a large number of Heavenly Immortal experts surrounding the main city as spies. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. According to the second page of the intelligence system, there were still forces pursuing him. The 9 Kills Gates, Upper 9 Gates and Lower 9 Gates dispatched a Gate Master and 3 Protectors. Their goal was to kill Yi Qinghan and Qi Dongping, not capture them alive. If Widow Ju wanted to kill you, it would be too easy. Do you still want to go out now? Zhang Fan leaned against the chair and glanced at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan felt a bit awkward. He didn't expect the 9 Kills Gate and Ultimate Peak sect to be so powerful. Even from so far away, they could still control his life and death. Senior, why are you helping me? It's not worth it to offend these 2 forces for me, is it? Yi Qinghan was a little curious. After all, Zhang Fan was not Marquis Zun Long. If Marquis Zun Long wanted to protect him, it would only take a word. Both Extreme Peak Mountain and 9 Kills sect would have to give face. However, Zhang Fan was different. He was not a golden immortal. Even if he was, he did not have the prestige of Marquis Zun Long. Zhang Fan smiled faintly and asked, Who in the world knows that I'm helping you? Unless you want to die and say it out loud. Yi Qinghan couldn't understand Zhang Fan. They were strangers who met by chance. Moreover, he didn't offend any major force. It was already amazing that Zhang Fan helped him once. Now, he was actually helping him. This meant that he was sincerely helping him. Yi Qinghan thanked Zhang Fan in his heart. However, he wanted to know why Zhang Fan was helping him. Stay in the city obediently. Time can erase everything. When the 9 Kills Gate and Ultimate Peak Mountain feel that continuing to encircle you is not worth the loss, they will naturally retreat. This will take a long time. It might take 1,000 years or even 10,000 years. Now, it will depend on your patience. Fighting to the death with experts is a stupid thing to do, Zhang Fan said calmly. Yi Qinghan bowed respectfully and said, "Thank you, Senior. Ever since I entered the immortal world, only you and immortal Donghuang have helped me. I will definitely repay this kindness with my life." Zhang Fan shook his head and said indifferently, "I don't need your life. You can't help me. Maybe I just want to train you and see if you can reconstruct your body. Or maybe I really do love talent. However, you better not disappoint me. Otherwise, I will personally send you to Old Monster Di Yao or Widow Ju." Yi Qinghan didn't know that Zhang Fan had already sent people to investigate him. Naturally, he didn't understand Zhang Fan's intentions. Speaking of reconstructing his body, Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up. Even in his dreams, he wanted to reconstruct his immortal body. If Zhang Fan was willing to help, his chances would naturally be much higher. However, I won't help you with anything now. When I feel that I can help you, I will naturally contact you. For now, you can go back. I will give you that small accessory as a greeting gift. Zhang Fan was incomparably dignified. He didn't give Yi Qinghan a chance to speak. With a wave of his hand, he distorted the void and directly sent Yi Qinghan out of the Dao Hall. In the Brahma Supreme Dao Hall, Zhang Fan was holding a piece of information. This was personally written by the 9 Heavens Xian Immortal. I didn't expect the 9 Heavens Xian Immortal to have such a high evaluation of you. However, the scene that he saw with his own eyes can't be fake. Your actions are very much to my taste. The next step is to test it. I hope you can pass. Zhang Fan closed the information with a gentle smile. He didn't have the imposing manner when he suppressed Widow Ju and Shui Renfeng. Outside the auction house, Yi Qinghan's face was flushed red. He didn't expect Zhang Fan to help him. Moreover, he didn't have any evil intentions. How could he not be excited and grateful? Looks like I won't be able to find the golden immortal grade immortal fruit. I hope the Xian immortal grade immortal fruit will be useful. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists in excitement. It felt great to have a backer behind him. This was an experience he had never experienced before. He had always been the one protecting others, but he had never had a supreme being protecting him. The feeling of being protected was very blissful. Thank you. A drop of water should be repaid with a spring. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. Then, he quickly rushed towards the Li family's immortal treasure shop. At the distant border of Xikong City, a beautiful immortal spirit immortal was carefully moving forward. Although she was a female cultivator, her expression was resolute. Her sword heart was firm and her combat strength was extremely strong. The aura of her sword could shock even earth immortals. Once the sword was unsheathed, the sword would not return until the enemy was destroyed. Jian Bugui, who had disappeared for countless years, had appeared. Back then, she had escaped the destruction of the civilization and the sacred war. Taking advantage of the connection between the 9 Heavens Great World and the Eternal World, she had secretly disguised herself and entered the 9 Heavens Great World. With her talent and ability, she had become an immortal spirit immortal and appeared in the immortal world. However, the immortal world was not as perfect as she thought. There was killing everywhere. In order to survive, one had to do anything, especially for beautiful female cultivators. It was too difficult for them to survive. There were a few immortal spirit immortals lying beside Jian Bugui. Immortal blood spilled around and was absorbed by the spiritual herbs. However, she was not stained by any of the blood. At the same time, a group of people appeared in the valley and met Jian Bugui. The other party didn't care about Jian Bugui, but Jian Bugui had to be cautious. She's not a bad beauty. Her sword aura is very strange. Her sword energy and sword are very low level. She doesn't look like a native of the immortal world. The leader of the group, a middle-aged man, looked at Jian Bugui curiously as if he was looking at a rare animal. His gaze made Jian Bugui's hair stand on end. Chapter 24:10. That group of people was very valiant in their actions. The smell of blood on their bodies was very strong, and they had the temperament of a special army. Their actions were swift and decisive, and their attacks were ruthless and merciless. When some wild beasts approached, they did not even have the chance to bare their teeth before they were wiped out by a few immortal heaven immortal experts. The leader was a mystic immortal in his 40s or 50s. He didn't look at Jian Bugui with evil eyes, but he obviously didn't treat Jian Bugui as a human. Jian Bugui's figure flashed and retreated 10 meters. His footwork was very mysterious and was a little strange compared to the 5 elements shifting technique of the immortal sect. Wait, your footwork just now was very familiar. The strong mystic immortal expert had good eyesight. He saw the problem with one look. Jian Bugui was shocked. The immortal sect's 5 elements teleportation technique was indeed very mysterious. However, she had only seen some experts fight in the dark and copied some of the technique. It wasn't the complete immortal sect's 5 elements teleportation technique. Could they be from Sikong City? Jian Bugui muttered to herself and became more alert. I don't know you. You are all seniors. There's no need to bully a weak girl like me, Jian Bugui said in a low voice. Ha ha ha, the group laughed and looked at Jian Bugui mockingly. Maybe it was because their career was boring. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken a liking to someone of Jian Bugui's level. They wouldn't even tease her. However, the leader stared at Jian Bugui. The footwork just now was too familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen it before. Perform the footwork just now again. Xian Immortal Jia ordered coldly. Jian Bugui was suppressed in the valley by the strong pressure and had no chance to escape. He could only perform the modified version of the 5 elements teleportation technique again. Hua! Jian Bugui teleported and appeared at the edge of the valley. Immortal Sect's 5 elements teleportation technique. That trash mystic immortals technique. You're not a native of the immortal world. Are you from Sikong Tanlang's world? Xian Immortal Jia asked in a low voice. Jian Bugui didn't know what they wanted. He shook his head and said, No. What's Sikong Tanlang? I don't know. In Xiao. Xian Immortal Jia made his move. He waved his hand and formed a sword of energy that went straight for Jian Bugui's throat. Xiao. Jian Bugui teleported again to escape. However, Xian Immortal Jia did not intend to kill her. Otherwise, she would not have been able to escape with her half-baked teleportation immortal technique. If this isn't the immortal sect's 5 elements shifting technique, then what is it? Only people from the lower world can cultivate such a ridiculous technique. Even if you changed it, the essence will not change. If you want to leave here alive, then tell me who you are, Xian Immortal Jia said coldly. At this time, the group of experts stopped laughing and stared at Jian Bugui. Gulp! Jian Bugui gulped as he gripped his sword to defend himself. With a frown on his face, he asked, I am a native of Eternal World, someone from a lower plane. However, there is no grudge between us, right? Xian Immortal Jia and the others looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. Do you know Yi Qinghan? You better not lie to me. Otherwise, I will make you regret being born into this world. Xian Immortal Jie warned in a deep voice. Jian Bugui's hand, that was holding the sword, was trembling. The difference was too great. She did not even have the courage to resist. Yes, very familiar, Jian Bugui said honestly. Xian Immortal Jie was overjoyed. He quickly asked, "What is your relationship?" Jian Bugui took a deep breath and replied, "We used to be friends. However, we are not on good terms now." Then do you know about the grudge between Yi Qinghan and Sikong Tanlang, as well as Yi Qinghan's past? Xian Immortal Jie asked expectantly. Jian Bugui nodded and did not deny it. Perhaps no one knew Yi Qinghan better than she did. Ha ha! I have searched high and low for this information. I was really afraid that Sikong Tanlang would not tell me. In the end, we found someone from the lower world. Commander Gao will definitely reward us handsomely. Take her and we will return to the north. Xian Immortal Jian was overjoyed. He waved his hand and took Jian Bugui away. Boom! Boom! A large group of people rushed towards the north. Xian Immortal Jie and the others were from the north, and they were Gao Sitan's subordinates. Jian Bugui happened to meet this group of people and came to ask for information. This might be Yi Qinghan's luck, or it might be Jian Bugui's luck. Yi Qinghan did not expect Jian Bugui, who had disappeared for so long, to appear again. He was buying Xian Immortal Grade Immortal fruits through Li Zhen. Occasionally, he would buy Golden Immortal Grade Immortal fruit. However, Golden Immortal Grade Immortal Kingdoms had their own channels. It was difficult for Li Zhen to buy them from the black market. The Divine Bird's bracelet could absorb Xian Immortal Grade Immortal fruit. However, the effect was minimal. Yi Qinghan bought more than 200 million Xian Immortal Grade Immortal fruit. This almost caused the Xian Immortal Grade Immortal to stop selling them. This caused the price of Xian Immortal Grade Immortal fruits in the city to skyrocket. For several consecutive years, Yi Qinghan had never left the Li family's immortal treasure shop. He was either cultivating diligently, comprehending the mysteries of the 9 slashes chain saber, or comprehending the dragon-shaped ornaments that Zhang Fan had given him and comprehending Zhang Fan's saber technique. One day in the cave was 1,000 years in the world. Yi Qinghan did not know how much time had passed. During Yi Qinghan's 7 years of seclusion, old monster Di Yao's face was gloomy outside the city. He and his team had wasted too much time here. Organize a suicide squad. I want to kill Yi Qinghan in the city. As long as we kill Yi Qinghan, run if you can, kill yourself if you can't. Do not expose your identity. Old monster Di Yao was furious. He gave the order to organize the experts of Ultimate Peak Mountain to kill Yi Qinghan. Old monster Di Yao was tired of waiting. How could Widow Ju be a patient person? Outside the main city of Jingfan Mountain, on the official road, there was a long shadow. He had a handsome young face and a long spear in his hand. His steps were firm and his temperament was extraordinary. It was Li Peiza. Li Peiza had improved a lot in these years. Coupled with his rapid cultivation, he was close to the Xian Immortal Realm. He was in the top 12 of the heaven ranking in the Center God Province. However, he did not have the time to challenge the top 10 experts. Otherwise, he might have entered the top 10 already. When Li Peiza received the news, he immediately rushed to the North God Province. It took him 8 or 9 years to enter the city. As soon as he entered the city, Li Peiza quickly rushed to the Li family's immortal treasure shop. After Li Peiza entered the main city, Li Zhen quickly received the news. He rushed to Yi Qinghan's side courtyard in advance and woke Yi Qinghan up. Yi Qinghan woke up from his seclusion. His temperament was restrained. His domineering aura became thick and deep. He was no longer as domineering as before. The Tonggu saber in his hand seemed to have merged with him, becoming a part of his body. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan quickly opened the side courtyard's door. He saw Li Zhen's smiling face and asked, "Uncle Li, How long has it been? Where did Supreme Yi run off to? You've been in seclusion for 8.5 years. Supreme Yi and Little Fox Immortal went to buy immortal treasures. However, I'm looking for you because my nephew has entered the city. He should be here soon, Li Jun said quickly. Yi Qinghan nodded and said, I'll wash up first. I'll go to the front courtyard to find him later. Chapter 24:11 Quiet Fragrance Hall was the most famous restaurant in Jingfan Mountain. It had all sorts of delicacies. Other than dragons, there was nothing they couldn't get their hands on. Of course, even if there was dragon meat, no one would dare to eat it because this was the Dragon Emperor Immortal Kingdom. Who would dare to eat dragons? Li Jun booked a private room here. Just the deposit alone was a few 100,000. God knows how much he would eat for this meal. Now that Li Peiza was no longer a branch family descendant, but the eldest young master of the Li clan, he was worthy of such hospitality. Li Peiza was already waiting in the private room. Li Jun stood at the side respectfully, afraid that he would make Li Peiza unhappy. Nephew, if you have any special requests, please tell me. Uncle will try his best to fulfill them. Li Jun didn't feel any heartache after spending so much money. Instead, he was looking forward to it. He was afraid that Yi Futian wouldn't spend and treat him as an outsider. Sixth uncle, this is enough. Today, I want to talk to brother Yi alone, so I won't be eating with sixth uncle. Li Peiza said faintly. Li Jun immediately nodded and said, Good, good, good. We uncle and nephew can eat together anytime. You take care of nephew Yi first. I've already asked someone to wait in his backyard. They will be brought over soon. Li Peiza nodded and closed his eyes to rest. He seemed to be born with a superior aura, which made Li Jun feel a lot of pressure. Li Jun immediately left the private room and waited at the bottom of the quiet fragrance hall. Soon, Yi Qinghan was led downstairs by a servant. Nephew Yi, my nephew is already waiting at the Mountain View Pavilion. Today, you young people have been waiting for a long time, so Uncle Li won't be joining you. Next time, I will treat you to a good meal. Li Jun hid his embarrassment and said with a smile. Yi Qinghan looked at Li Jun's expression and knew that this was Li Peiza's intention. He nodded and said, Thank you Uncle Li for the arrangement. You can go back first. Li Jun signaled with his eyes and brought the servant back to the Li clan's immortal treasure shop. Yi Qinghan stepped into the quiet fragrance hall alone. A few eyes followed him and soon a few experts left. Yi Qinghan didn't mind. Fighting to the death was strictly prohibited in the city. He didn't think that the people of the Extreme Peak sect and the Nine Kills sect would dare to fight in the city. Moreover, he didn't know how many forces had been keeping an eye on him these past few years. He couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them. The people of Quiet Fragrance Hall directly led Yi Qinghan to the Shanshui private room, where Li Peiza had been waiting for a long time. Ha ha! Brother Yi, long time no see. I didn't expect you to come to the northern divine region. Li Peiza laughed heartily. Yi Qinghan smiled. He didn't stand on ceremony and sat down. I had no choice. If it wasn't for the divine bird's transformation, I would have already entered the Azure Venerable Immortal Empire. Aren't you going to the Ancient Emperor Academy? Why did you suddenly come to the North Divine Region? Li Peiza snapped his fingers and said to the waiter outside, Serve the dishes. Serve all the dishes I ordered earlier. Also, bring 10 jars of the strongest wine. Yi Qinghan watched as the waiter left. He smiled bitterly and said, F***ck the Ancient Emperor Academy. This daddy here has been labeled as an opportunistic villain. I'm trash that looks for backers everywhere. When I visited Marquis Zunlong, I was rejected. In the end, even the Ancient Emperor Academy refused to let me in. Li Peiza was stunned. He looked at Yi Qinghan and smiled. He could understand the sadness in Yi Qinghan's heart. This kind of cruel reality was very common in the immortal world. Yi Qinghan had tasted countless bitterness and sweetness when he was young. Brother, I understand. Today we won't go home until we're drunk. Others may have eyes but can't see gold and jade, but this brother acknowledges you. I believe that one day, you will become a dragon and roam the 9 heavens, Li Peiza said firmly. Yi Qinghan smiled confidently. Li Peiza believed in him, but he believed in himself even more. Thanks for your auspicious words. Today we won't go home until we're drunk. Yi Qinghan hadn't indulged himself in a long time. He decided to drink with Li Peiza today. Not long later, a group of beautiful maids came in carrying plates. On the plates were immortal fruits and the meat of high-grade immortal birds. Their blood and qi were preserved very well. They looked, smelled, and were extremely alluring. 10 jars of blood-red wine were carried over. The fragrance of the wine permeated the air. The strong wine entered the body through the pores, making one drunk without drinking. Haha, brother, ye might not have tasted the strong blood wine here. It's made from the blood of dozens of high-grade immortal beasts. It contains the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and majestic blood and qi. Its strength is enough to suppress immortal spiritual energy. Even a Xian immortal expert wouldn't be able to save it in a short period of time. Today we'll drink until we're drunk. Yi Qinghan casually tore the seal of a jar of wine. The smell of wine rushed into his nostrils. In the blink of an eye, it spread throughout his body, causing his soul to tremble. Strong blood wine, good wine, Yi Qinghan said excitedly. Gulp. Yi Qinghan's emotions had been suppressed to the extreme recently. Unfortunately, there was no one who could drink with him. At this moment, he acted freely and directly held the jar of wine and drank a few mouthfuls. His soul seemed as if it was on fire, causing his entire body to be boiling hot. His immortal spiritual energy was burning, and terrifying vital energy swept into his limbs and bones. His mind was muddled while his eyes shot out a bloody glow. Satisfying! Yi Qinghan roared in a low voice. Li Peiza looked at Yi Qinghan venting his emotions like a wild beast, and he reckoned that the humiliation he suffered was far from something that could be explained with a single sentence. Gulp! Li Peiza poured the strong blood wine into a large bowl and drank it all in one gulp, causing his heroic spirit to be aroused. Brother Yi, if you have something on your mind, then feel free to tell me. Perhaps I can't help you with anything, but I can be a listener. Li Peiza wiped off the wine on the corner of his mouth, before grabbing the golden roasted meat on the table and tearing it apart without holding back. Huff, huff, huff. Yi Qinghan did not hold back as he crazily ate and drank, using this to vent his emotions. This matter started from when I borrowed 300 million immortal coins from the Eastern Emperor Immortal. The Eastern Emperor Grand Venerable thought that I wanted to climb up the tree, haha. I will return him 600 million. Do I care about money? But that son of a bitch slandered me in front of Marquis Zun Long and Ouyang Hua, saying that I was an opportunist who was looking for backers everywhere. He convinced Ouyang Hua and Marquis Zun Long to directly cut off my path of retreat and change my fate. Gulp! Yi Qinghan roared out everything that had been suppressed in his heart for a long time. He picked up the strong blood wine jug and started drinking again. The red light in his eyes was exceptionally cold. I saved his daughter and helped them protect the ancestral artifact. I don't care if they don't thank me, but he actually entrusted the 9 Kill School to kill me. Such a cold-blooded and heartless family, such a family that repaid kindness with enmity, they are truly unworthy of the name of the ancient bloodline. Ha! Yi Qinghan laughed as he spoke. If he said that he did not blame the Eastern Emperor, then he would be too hypocritical. Yi Qinghan felt wronged, helpless, and sad. All of this was because of reality, because he was a soul body, because he had offended the ultimate peak mountain, because he did not have a powerful background. You can misunderstand me. You don't have to repay the kindness, but entrusting the 9 kill school to kill me is too laughable. Yi Qinghan was a little hysterical. In all these years, he had never vented his emotions like this. At this moment, he was hugging the wine jug with tears in his eyes. He directly drank the entire jug of strong blood wine. Gulp, gulp. Li Peiza accompanied him in drinking bowl after bowl. Listening to Yi Qinghan's narration, the resentment in his heart was stimulated, and he directly threw the big bowl away. Damn it, this is going too far. Chapter 24:12. Yi Qinghan resonated with Li Peiza. That was because Li Peiza wasn't a direct descendant. He had been bullied as a child, and had only managed to reach his current level after years of bitter cultivation. However, the events of the past were still fresh in his mind. Yi Qinghan was angry. He was not a saint who had no desires. After holding it in for so long, it would naturally affect his state of mind. At this moment, he spoke with Li Peiza and felt better. Brother Yi, I can understand your feelings. The immortal world is cruel like this. Everything is based on strength. I was bullied in the past and now I'm above the rest of the Li family. Even if I'm on the Central Divine Region's heaven roll and the Immortal Kingdom's overall roll, the resources I enjoy are still incomparable to direct descendants of the same level. Most of my resources were earned by my father and myself. But it's okay, I can also become a golden immortal on my own. Li Peiza said firmly. The Li family did not have any golden immortals. The highest cultivation level was only at the Great Circle of Xian Immortal, which was slightly weaker than Zhang Fan. However, it was enough to become an overlord. As long as Li Peiza stepped into the golden immortal realm, even if it was the lowest level, he would be able to lead the noble families. Yi Qinghan smiled and clinked his cup with Li Peiza. He said lightly, I believe you can become a golden immortal. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked you to come to the Northern Divine Region. Li Peiza replied, I also believe you can reconstruct your golden body and step into the golden immortal realm. The two looked at each other and smiled. They ate and drank like ordinary mortals. After 2 hours, half of the 10 jars of fiery blood wine were gone. Their faces were red and their eyes were red. Their blood was boiling and their potential was burning. Yi Qinghan was still at the mid-stage of the immortal heaven immortal realm. At this moment, his cultivation level was rising rapidly. However, there was still a long way to go before he reached the upper stages of the heaven immortal realm. This meal cost at least a few million celestial coins. This was the savings of a heaven immortal expert for a year or even several years. As the two of them drank, all of their defenses dissipated. They called each other brothers and couldn't wait to hug each other. Fortunately, Divine Bird and Little Fox Fairy weren't around, otherwise, they would really suspect Yi Qinghan's sexual orientation. Yi Qinghan grabbed Li Peiza's hand and quickly handed over the immortal ring. Brother, I'll give you this high-grade, extreme cold mysterious mother. It's useless for me to keep it. It's such a waste to sell this resource. Take it and cultivate. This high-grade absolute cold Xian Mu rarely appeared in the world, and it had a price but no market. If it was taken out for auction, it was estimated that it could be sold for several hundred million. Li Peiza said gratefully, I won't share Long Yang's share with him. We'll calculate according to the market price and give you 200 million yuan. Bah! Yi Qinghan swung his arm and slapped Li Peiza's hand to the side. He glared at Li Peiza and said unhappily, talking about money between brothers will hurt our relationship. Let's not talk about this. I came here today to drink with you. More than 2 hours later, darkness had completely shrouded the streets, and the clamor on the streets had completely dissipated. The two of them were drunk and their blood was boiling. The more they drank, the more energetic they became. The dishes on the table were swept clean, and there were only 2 jars of fierce blood wine left. We're almost done drinking. Let's go back. Yi Qinghan grabbed a jar of wine and stood up in a panic. His legs were a bit light and he almost fell down. Let's go and drink while we walk. Li Peiza also picked up the last jar of wine and stood up trembling. It was very difficult for him to walk. The two of them walked out of the private room with their arms around each other's shoulders and were helped downstairs by a few maids. Li Zhen had already paid the fee and the two of them directly left the quiet fragrance hall. The night wind blew their long hair. The two of them supported each other as they walked on the spacious road. The patrol team passed by behind them. The quiet fragrance hall was not far from the Li family's immortal treasure shop. After crossing 4 streets, one street to the west would be the Li family's immortal treasure shop. There was no one on the road and the cold wind blew. There was no light at all on the road in front of the Li family's immortal treasure shop. Even the patrol team was gone. There was a faint killing intent in the surroundings which was blown away by the cold wind. 2 hours later, the two of them were drinking fierce blood wine as they turned onto the official road. Today, why are we all sleeping so early? There's not even a shadow. Li Peiza burped and said in a daze. Yi Qinghan did not mind. Today was his most relaxed day. Subconsciously, he still believed that the main city was safe. Who would dare to assassinate him in the main city? Ignore him. I don't believe that the Endless Peak sect and 9 Murders sect would dare to come to the main city to kill people. Yi Qinghan almost dropped the jar of wine in his hand. It was rare to be able to drink like this. Fierce blood wine was one of the strongest wines in the undying immortal world. It was at least below the Xian immortal grade immortal wine. Yi Qinghan and Li Peiza could not quickly digest the wine. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan and Li Peiza drank 3 mouthfuls and threw the jar of wine away. The wine rushed to their heads and their eyes were seeing double as they looked at the surrounding buildings. The strong smell of wine blocked Yi Qinghan's sense of danger. Woo-woo! An extremely cold wind swept past and swept up the fallen leaves into the sky. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and subconsciously took out his Tonggu saber. His fingertips moved the saber's hilt and he squeezed his eyes hard to see the official road in front of him. There's killing intent. Yi Qinghan's blood boiled and his veins popped out. His eyes narrowed into a line. Whoosh! Li Peiza did not know the danger. He waved his hand and the ice spear appeared in his hand. He swept the spear and said unhappily, "Where's the killing intent? Who dares to attack in the main city?" Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In an instant, at least 300 immortal crossbows and arrows pierced through the void and rushed over. The powerful force caused their battle robes to flutter. The terrifying killing intent and sense of danger swept into their bodies. Roar! The immortal crossbows and arrows converged from all directions like the roars of giant beasts. In the blink of an eye, they reached Yi Qinghan and Li Peiza. Whoosh, roar! Yi Qinghan drew his saber and swept it across in the midst of the lightning and thunder. The blood and qi in his body burned. His strength reached the peak with the help of the blood and qi from the strong blood wine. Whoosh! The Tonggu saber erupted with powerful immortal runes, and the profound mysteries of the 9 slashes chain saber were utilized to the peak of perfection. The heavenly saber qi was unstoppable, and it shattered dozens of immortal bows and arrows. Boom! Li Peiza was also shocked. He and Yi Qinghan had their backs to each other. The ice spear exploded and the cold air froze space. Even the immortal crossbows and arrows slowed down. Whoosh! Woo-woo! The spear was used as a defensive barrier. It blocked half of Yi Qinghan's attack and relieved a lot of pressure. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! Then, another wave of immortal crossbows and arrows roared out. Whoosh! Whoosh! After this wave of arrows, more than 30 people rushed out. They were as fast as lightning. Their immortal swords pierced through the void and contained the power to kill the heavens. The sword qi emitted from the tips of their swords was like dragons and tigers leaving the mountains. Roar! In the blink of an eye, more than 30 people wielded sabers, spears, swords, and halberds. Their sword chi was like a rainbow. Together with the crossbows and arrows, they crashed into Yi Qinghan and Li Pei's immortal weapons. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.